the dimly lit halls of medieval courts, long before the light of dawn would touch the cobblestones of sleepy towns, decisions that would shape the lives of young women were being made in whispers and ink. The tale of destined bonds unveils the intricacies and challenges of bride selection in an age when marriages were more than just unions of hearts. They were strategic alliances, currency in the grand chess game of dynastic power. Brar walking through the stone passageways of a lord's keep. It is easy to imagine the hushed conversations that took place in chambers adorned with tapestries and flickering torches. Our house would greatly benefit from aligning with the North, a baron might murmur to his wife, considering the political and economic landscapes as his forefathers once did. Brar Bray in an era when the voice of a woman was often compared to the sound of a nightingale. Beautiful, but ultimately contained within bars, many young brides in waiting found the weight of their fate resting upon decisions not their own. Chests of dowry treasures, heavy with linens and metalwork, became tools of negotiation more compelling than any heartfelt plea from the bride herself. Brar considered the life of Lady Eleanor of Bolton, a young maiden of 16, whose gentle demeanor masked the sharp intellect that she stowed quietly beneath her courteous bows and pleasantries. The specter of marriage hovered over her from the age of 13, as messages flitted through the hands of scribes and emissaries, their content as inscrutable to her as the Latin in the family archives. Barbara Eleanor was not simply a daughter, she was a bridge, a passage into prosperity or perhaps peace, offering an anchor within shifting political tides. Her father, Lord Bolton, a man of strategy if not sentiment, saw in her not just a child but a keystone in the architecture of his ambitions. Rarely was Eleanor consulted about her prospective suitors. Couriers would announce the arrival of gentlemen callers, who appeared more interested in her father's lands than her kind eyes or gentle laughter, and be greeted in turn with solemn hospitality. It wasn't conversation or affinity that moved her future forward, but rather the invisible handshakes of understanding between her father and those he would choose to entertain. Bradar. According to stories passed down among servants over hearth fires, one particular suitor, Sir Robert of Longfield, was more inclined to admire his own reflection than to acquaint himself with Eleanor or her interests. Nevertheless, it was Robert's estate, rich in fertile lands and crucial alliances, that appealed to Lord Bolton. That appeal would one day sign Eleanor's fate into the weighty ledger of marriages arranged. Brar, despite the grandeur of his knights and cavalry, Sir Robert's attentions were dispassionate. A young woman could be held in the same regard, as he might consider the prize of a justing victory, an accolade rather than an individual of depth and complexity. Yet, with practiced politeness, Eleanor moved through conversations as if steps in a formal dance, all grace with no room for stumble. Barbrihar's stories of marriage, aspects mundane, magical, and melancholic, filled the tapestry of Eleanor's world, woven with the threads of generations past. Her mother, who once could have shared insights into navigating the marital labyrinth, had passed into the next world, leaving Eleanor with only ancient lessons whispered by nursemaids and matrons who spoke in riddles. Yet, in this reverent portrayal of medieval unions, lies an undercurrent of resilience. Though many of Eleanor's choices were dictated by birthright and duty, her narrative was not one of silent submission. There was a quiet agency in her actions, a gentle rebellion within propriety. She listened intently to the minstrels sing of faraway lands, and braced herself as an architect would a bridge, determined to hold steadfast against the strongest of societal pressures. Eleanor found solace within her own creations. With her needle, she painted her dreams on tapestries that chronicled histories she would never speak aloud. Each stitch was a silent protest, a secret language that only the heart could decipher. She penned letters to herself, never sent, but kept safely tucked within an ornate box, a testament to her aspirations and contemplations. This angel of ink and parchment could wield her pen as surely as any knight with a sword, shaping her unspoken words into arrows that reached depths beyond the castle's moat. The days turned unpredictably, as did the seasons, icy mornings yielding to the soft blooms of spring, and with them, Sir Robert's advances in the form of intricately sealed letters grew undeniable. When the final confirmation arrived, a formal yet anticlimactic blessing from her father, Eleanor embraced her future with an internal serenity, resigning to the tides but ever watchful of the horizon. Barbara, on the eve of her wedding, surrounded by an array of laces and veils, Eleanor took a moment to gaze upon her reflection. The woman before her was poised and ready, yet still the spirited girl with dreams unfazed. This was her rite of passing from daughter to wife, a transformation bound by tradition. Barbara, the burden of Eleanor's destiny, was indeed a heavy one, but within the confines of her role, she discovered small spaces to breathe freedom into her existence. She understood the power of observation, the art of patience, and the subtle strength embedded within silence. As she walked down the aisle, flanked by a sea of spectators who saw only ceremony, she carried within her heart the quiet knowledge that while love might not always accompany her, dignity and purpose would. Barbara, in the grand halls of history, where every performance could be likened to a shadow on the expansive tapestry of time, Eleanor and brides like her lived their stories. Their agency may have seemed muted, their decisions restricted, yet they walked paths of unyielding endurance and crafted a legacy from soft-spoken wisdom. Barbara, and so, dear reader, as you drift into the gentle embrace of dreams, remember the quiet tales of those who once walked before us in silent corridors, their experiences threading through history's loom. May the stories of noble women, each marked by their destined bonds, weave into the fabric of slumber, bringing forth visions of peace and reflection. In the serene corners of history, where time unfurls like a gentle breeze, lies the tale of the weight of expectations. It is a story of those who traversed the delicate bridge of matrimony, cloaked in the veils of societal and familial pressures, often with little understanding of the journey ahead. Once upon a time, in a world not quite distant from ours, the role of a bride was defined long before she could shape her own dreams. She was expected to embody purity, patience, and an unwavering dedication to her new family, a role adorned with rituals and responsibilities. It was a time when young women gazed into the unknown, their hearts heavy with the expectations placed upon them. A delicate dance unfolded at the dawn of marriage, where familial pride rested heavily on the shoulders of the bride. She was a pearl in a carefully crafted shell, yet the ocean she was to navigate remained a mystery. Her worth was often measured by the strength she displayed, silently enduring the tides of her new life. Amidst this tapestry of traditions, each bride wore a crown invisible to the eye, but heavy with expectations. The symphony of bells and hymns echoed their anticipation throughout the town, as soft whispers of fortune and fertility drifted through the air. In her mind's eye, a bride envisioned the future, a canvas of hope and dreams, yet the colors were not of her choosing. The societal norms were tales steeped in the philosophies of elders, a chorus of voices that determined the path a bride would walk. Her new role often required her to adeptly weave herself into the fabric of a family tree she joined by virtue, yet her roots were often tender and unused to such transplantation. Yet in this scripted world, love whispered softly. Sometimes it was a mere spark, igniting defiantly amidst the stifling expectations. Despite the weight of tradition, love found its way, carving niches and etching its presence into the narrative of life. Like a gentle whisper, it caressed the soul, providing a sliver of solace amidst the storm. The story of the bride was not one of complete darkness, nor was it cloaked purely in lightness. It was a journey, one that intertwined the destinies of families, and in doing so, taught resilience to those who donned the bridal veil. For love itself is the child of patience and understanding, blossoming over time like the petals of a long blooming flower. Even as they embarked on their marital journey, uncertainty clouded the distance like mist upon the mountains. The path was neither completely visible nor entirely hidden, and it was not a path walked lightly. It demanded courage, demanded strength, and above all, demanded hope. Thus, the weight of expectations bore down not as chains but as the heaviest crown, worn by those brave enough to embrace their role. They walked forward, step by tentative step, into the tapestry of familial bonds and societal structures, holding close to the heart a hope that the beauty they create would be worth all the weight carried. So, when the moon bathed their world in silver, and the stars blinked silently as guardians in the night sky, these brides, resilient and gentle, ultimately left a legacy of quiet strength. For in the silence that followed, there was peace, a promise of tranquility, waiting to be fulfilled. In the stillness of the night, away from the clamor of festivities. A fragile whispering of dreams, once begun, can be heard echoing through time. The concept of marriage rituals has always been steeped in tradition, a tapestry of customs woven through centuries. Yet, the serene beauty of a wedding day can swiftly turn into a night of hushed uncertainty, especially for brides who, for decades, have stepped into their wedding nights wrapped in apprehension and veiled ignorance. Our journey through history takes us back to times when wedding night rituals were less about celebration and more about fulfilling a duty, an enigmatic rite understood by all yet spoken of by none. The innocence lost on these nights was an untold tale, with each bride entering the chamber not just with the hope of a promising new life, but with the unvoiced terror of confronting the unknown. In centuries past, many brides were often young, sheltered, ill-prepared for the realities awaiting them behind closed doors. In a world untouched by the ease of contemporary relationship dynamics, they walked unaccompanied into rooms shadowed with expectations. Societal norms dictated silence, robbing them of any chance at forewarning or discussion. The groom, equally trapped in his own set of expectations, often found himself in a similar bind, carrying the weight of performance and dominance on his shoulders. Couples, newlyweds in hurried arrangements made by families, had to navigate this delicate space of intimacy unarmed with knowledge or understanding. History records little on the sentiments of these brides. Their stories lie buried deep beneath ceremonial photographs and meticulously arranged wreaths. Chronicles describe opulent ceremonies brimming with grandeur, but what transpired after the guests departed remains cloaked in mystery. As dawn approached, many brides awoke with a profound feeling of transformation, silently wrestling with an altered self, while outside, life continued undisturbed. Yet, within the confines of their rooms, something imperceptible had shifted forever. In ancient civilizations, such as in the lands of feudal Japan, wedding nights were a blend of rituals that focused less on the emotional union of two individuals and more on binding two families. The notion of izunomiya, night of consummation, was carefully orchestrated, yet devoid of personal guidance for the bride. Hidden behind layers of elaborate kimonos, the bride faced pressures unknown to her before, her innocence a tender offering to cultural expectations. Meanwhile, in medieval Europe, brides were often witnesses to ceremonial rituals that included bedding ceremonies, public acknowledgments of the marital union. While history often romanticizes these gestures, in reality, the bride's participation was obligatory rather than voluntary. The night's culmination rested in a silent submission, an unspoken agreement that was to bind them indefinitely, for better or for worse. In the courts of Mughal India, beautifully sculpted palaces laid the groundwork for majestic nuptial nights. The intricacies of love and marriage were as elaborate as the architecture itself. Yet, as the ornate doors were shut, young brides found themselves enveloped in darkness, their innocence traded for alliances. The whispers of ancient poems captured the heart's secret fears, a chorus that might have brought solace if only allowed voice. In modern times, as societies progressed and global cultures began to intertwine, the narratives around wedding nights began to shift. Love had begun to find a language, slowly piercing through the veil of structured silence. Although some remnants of past traditions lingered, brides found empowerment in knowledge. Preparation, both emotional and intellectual, became the new ritual, a gentle guide through transition, ensuring that innocence was complemented by understanding. Yet, the history of wedding nights does not rest solely in the realm of traumatic revelation. It is interspersed with tales of tender discovery and genuine companionship, where the uncertainties of the night gave way to shared aspirations. These stories highlight resilience and humanity, illustrating that the night, regardless of its beginnings, often sowed the seeds of mutual respect, affection, and cherished bonds. As we drift further into the realm of understanding wedding night rituals, it becomes apparent that history had its share of complexities, mirrored in the lives of those who lived through these customs. Though fear was undoubtedly present, so too was the hope, a makeshift beacon guiding brides to embrace the unknown, to find not just duty but perhaps trust and partnership in their journey. Today, we cherish stories both spoken and silent, celebrating love in its myriad forms. By tracing our steps through history, we acknowledge the evolving dimensions of human relationships, learning from the past to build a future where nights are filled with peace rather than fear. comfort rather than confusion. In reshaping the narratives, we ensure that future brides, stepping into the sanctuary of their wedding nights, carry with them not just the echoes of tradition, but also the whispers of choice and the power of knowing. The historical threads of wedding night tales slip quietly into the folds of night, ensuring that innocence lost is met with an evolution of identity, a sacred passage from who they were to who they will become, on a journey that promises new dawns and silken beginnings. Between the Church and the Bedchamber explores a serene yet intricate tapestry of history, delving into the nuanced relationship between religion and marital customs. It paints a peaceful picture of times past, perfect for an evening's contemplation before sleep. Once upon a time, in the harmonious medieval villages nestled amidst rolling green hills, the church's steeple was often the tallest structure in the community. The presence of the church was omnipresent both physically and spiritually. Its doctrines, carried by the mellifluous pealing of church bells, reached every nook and cranny, from the bustling market squares to the intimate confines of every home. In these quaint villages, marriage was viewed not just as a union between two individuals, but as a sacred pact overseen by divine guidance. The church held sway over the marriage bed with a gentle yet firm hand. Religious doctrines dictated that marriage was a holy sacrament, a pathway towards moral uprightness that aligned closely with heavenly expectations. The tranquil routines of villagers were punctuated by weddings, ceremonies full of joy and a sense of community, where the church bells tolled joyously, symbolizing the joining of souls in holy matrimony. These weddings were more than just personal affairs. They were community spectacles officiated by the clergy, who, as custodians of morality, set the course for each married couple. Scripture-based marital vows, repeated in the warm glow of candle-lit chapels, outlined the sacred responsibilities each spouse held. Brides, in particular, entered into these unions with knowledge transferred through matronly wisdom, elder tales, and divine teachings. They were tutored in virtues of fidelity, patience, and obedience, conforming to the church's paradigms of a harmonious household. The influence of the church extended into the bedchamber, dictating not only the outward customs of marital life, but also setting expectations within the privacy of the spousal relationship. Consummation of marriage was seen as both a duty and a blessed act, conducted under the church's moral guidelines. These intimate interactions were wrapped in layers of spiritual significance, portraying them as an expression of deep love and commitment with the sanctity to procreate under godly benevolence. Despite the church's guiding hand, these couples often found personal fulfillment within its framework. Empathy and mutual respect blossomed in these marriages, as the foundational teachings also advocated for understanding, compassion, and consideration between spouses. Marital relations, shaped within this spiritual cocoon, were predominantly peaceful and marked by reconciliatory approaches whenever discord arose. Brides approached their new roles with a calm anticipation, instilled by familial narratives, and inherited wisdom that garnished religious teaching with rich cultural insights. These young brides carried forward the gentle art of constructing harmonious homes, carrying in their hearts ecclesiastical wisdom and age-old truths murmured from one generation to the next. Mentorship from older women, experienced in the rituals and rhythms of marital alliances, provided another layer of comfort. These matriarchs often carried their own recollections of guidance received from the church, blending it with love and lived experience. Such intergenerational sharing was a cherished practice, promoting continuity in the understanding of marital roles. In this history imbued with tranquility, village life thrived under the benevolent gaze of both tradition and faith, where the church's influential role was accepted with reverence. It offered societal stability and spiritual sanctity while simultaneously being a source of personal solace and community celebration. Thus, in the serene landscape of yesteryears, amidst chirping birds, whispering breezes, and aroma-filled kitchens, the church and the marital bedchamber coexisted in a peaceful symphony, orchestrating lives with a gentle undertone of divinely inspired purpose. Across these tranquil epochs, the historical narrative unfolds quietly, weaving elements of faith into the fabric of everyday life, perfect for lulling readers into pleasant dreams of a time where life's complexities were soothed by the harmonious melodies of religious and marital union. In the soft, glowing embers of medieval Europe, Purity culture wove itself through the intricate tapestry of societal norms. It crafted a world where the virtue of women, especially brides, was prized above all else. The concept of purity was not confined to mere chastity before marriage, but extended into a control mechanism over the lives of women, often determining their fate through its rigid grasp. The medieval era, marked by its serene landscapes and tumultuous power struggles, brimmed with conflict between personal freedom and societal expectation. Purity culture established a powerful narrative. The sanctity of marriage and the purity of brides were tantamount to the divine will. In this seemingly peaceful history, beneath the tranquility of castles and villages, lay a current of control that dictated the lives of many. Brides in medieval society bore the weight of a community's honor upon their shoulders, their actions scrutinized from the moment of their betrothal. The omnipresent gaze of purity culture often left no room for error. Transgressions, whether real or perceived, could lead to severe punishment and public shaming. These consequences were not mere fears conjured by overprotective families, but a very real reality for women who strayed from the path society carved out for them. The ideals of purity were woven into the very fabric of law and religion during this period. The Church, a formidable authority, dictated much of medieval life and reinforced these standards through its teachings. Clergymen delivered sermons extolling the virtues of virginity and chastity, positioning them as virtues leading to heavenly reward. With such ideals infused into the societal consciousness, control over women and their bodies became a matter of moral imperative. Yet history records moments of quiet rebellion, tales of women who, shackled by the heavy chains of expectation, dared to forge their own paths. Some fled from unwanted marriages, others found solace in convents where they could live life on their own terms. Their stories, though often whispered and shadowy, illuminate the cracks in purity culture's seemingly impervious stronghold. As medieval brides processed down the aisles of grand cathedrals or modest village chapels, they did so under the invisible weight of scrutiny. Any semblance of deviance from purity, such as rumors of infidelity or rebellious conduct, could lead to societal ostracization or worse. Despite the idealized romanticism modern society might attribute to this era, the reality for women was one of constrained freedom. The purity culture's grip on the medieval world illustrates a broader theme of control interwoven through history. It showcases how ideals, when enforced with severity and without compassion, can suppress the individual for the perceived good of the community. This era of history, although peaceful in appearance, was thus a silent battleground where the skirmishes were fought in the hearts and minds of women. Yet, the strength of human spirit endures through even the strictest binds. The tales passed down through generations of women who found their voices and broke through the confines placed upon them are whispers that reveal an incompletely written history. They remind us that peace and perfection are illusions, often set against a backdrop of control and sacrifice. In the sanctified halls of medieval churches, where incense curled toward vaulted ceilings and chants echoed through time, the reality of purity culture's influence was both overt and insidious. The very architecture of these places seemed to echo the structure society sought to impose on its members. As the rigid codes from the past echo into the present, they invite reflection on the delicate balance between societal roles and individual freedoms, a contemplation most fitting for a peaceful slumber, wrapped in the quietude of history's lessons. In a world where traditions and customs have ruled for centuries, the influence of patriarchal structures has permeated every corner of life. Strongs of history comprising quiet towns and bustling cities tell tales of men leading families with unwavering authority, shaping the world with decisions that echo through generations. The story of such a world is perfect for those seeking a peaceful recounting of history that invites slumber, weaving a narrative both familiar and distant. In times long past, the life of a family revolved around the patriarch. From the moment a child was born, their path was largely charted by the male heads of the family. It was the father who decided on children's education, their roles within the family, and often their futures. The word of the father or the eldest male was, to many, the ultimate law of the household, and their wishes shaped everything from daily routines to the momentous events of family life. Marriage, too, was an institution firmly in the grip of patriarchy. Young brides found themselves at the mercy of not only their husbands, but sometimes even the wider circle of male relatives. It was a time where the concept of love was secondary to duty, where alliances were forged through promises of dowries and honor rather than emotional bonds. The bride's family's fortunes could rise or fall based on the marriage alliance, and thus, enormous pressure was placed on young women to conform to the expectations installed upon them. In many cultures, a bride was seen primarily as a vehicle for securing family legacy. Their roles were prescribed even before marriage, as their families often negotiated their future roles and responsibilities, carefully scripting a life of obedience and service. Once married, the young brides entered households where their identity was often subsumed under their husband's domain, their lives a reflection of the leadership and status he could provide. Yet even in such structured cores, there were spaces of respite, quiet moments where the firm grip of patriarchy loosened ever so slightly. These were the daily rituals, the subtle power plays behind closed doors, where the women of the household could exercise influence, even if from the shadows, steering minor decisions or shaping the lives within their care. Mothers, daughters, sisters, and wives, while often constrained, developed intricate networks of communication and influence, which sometimes subtly shifted dynamics within patriarchal households. Throughout these narratives, history whispers the tales told in hushed homes and behind grand facades. In every patriarchal tale there are individual stories, nuanced, complex, and rich. These tellings remind us of both the limitations and the power within traditional structures. They leave behind quiet lessons as the world slowly changes, as new narrators seek to recast the scripts of family and power. In such peaceful recounting, the story of the patriarchy's firm grip is like the soothing rustle of pages, a dreamy tale best unfolded as sleep beckons. In reflections of these patriarchal histories, peace is found not only in stillness but in the slow, inevitable shift of change. Over time, as the light exposed the corners shadowed beneath the stronghold of patriarchy, new ideas and structures emerged. This gentle evolution invites hope and inspires tales of resilience and adaptation, perfect for those seeking rest under the gentle guidance of history's narrative voice. In a time long past, when the world was adorned with castles and sprawling estates, a noble woman often found herself masked beneath the layers of silken garments and gilded titles. Her life, though rich in material wealth, was often a tapestry woven with threads of duty and expectation. Born into a world of privilege, she was yet ensnared by the invisible chains of societal expectations, much like her less prosperous counterparts. Our tale begins in a serene European countryside, where a lady of high standing, Lady Isolde, spent her days in her family's ancestral estate. The gardens were abundant with roses, and the halls echoed with the sounds of her young children playing. It was a world that seemed, at first glance, perfect and peaceful, a storybook life to a casual observer. But beneath the surface, Lady Isolde found herself caught in the intricate web of noble games and alliances. Lady Isolde was educated in the arts of diplomacy, music, and needlework, and though her education introduced her to a world of thought, it also prepared her primarily to be a tool of alliance, rather than an independent thinker. Her marriage to Lord Brandon was a union not made from love, though kindness grew in their hearts over time. It was a decision forged through treaties and familial agreements, as a pawn mostly unaware in the larger game of noble chess. Despite the wealth her union brought, Lady Isolde struggled with the constraints placed upon her. Her daily life was guided like that of a well-directed play. Every movement, choice, and even her words were under constant scrutiny by those around her. Every action she took was ultimately in service of her family's status, a role she was born into, as much a part of her as her own noble blood. However, in the confines of her role, Lady Isolde discovered solace in her scholarly pursuits. Books that told of lands beyond her reach and lives beyond her own echoed a freedom she yearned for in her heart. On those moonlit nights, with a candle for company, she might dream herself in tales of heroines conquering new worlds or crafting their destinies with their own hands. Her fateful world shifted on a dulcet, late summer day when an envoy from a distant land arrived. With him came the promise of an alliance through marriage, not for Lady Isolde, but for her daughter, wherein Lady Isolde saw herself as two alike reflective panes. She recalled her own journey as she studied the envoy with curiosity and trepidation. Amid her daughter's youthful excitement and fear, she saw her own dreams rekindled and questioned the fairness of such a legacy. Historically, noblewomen like Lady Isolde existed both as a symbol of lineage and as catalysts for alliances, often finding their affections secondary to political necessity. Such was the custom and cruel geniality of history, practiced in steady hand amongst the orchestras of casual peace and nearly formalized serenity. Lady Isolde knew the potential her daughter held for her own course, yet felt the unyielding grip of her societal chains, preventing her from taking an alternative path. The resolve of her contemplation led her to discussions with her daughter, Lady Alara, as midnight lanterns concluded their flame-lit vigils, sharing advice not only in tactic but in ardent spirit. In Lady Alara, a new era's possibility was housed, a generation on the cusp of change, not entirely restrained by old arts. Though still a noblewoman in the making, she had something Lady Isolde had not, choice tempered by a mother's experience. Even as suitors lined the halls of their estate, Lady Alara held court with dignity, knowing her value and the tumult of cost that alliance wrought, both to heart and spirit. In exploring these alliances, Lady Isolde's efforts were not in vain. She arranged for her daughter to spend time in other courts, meeting minds and souls like her own, unrestricted by the boundaries of their own secluded estate. Elder wisdom guiding younger fervor, Lady Alara too began to discover the depths of identity entwined closely with duty without it chaining one's very soul. Together, they began to pen letters and, behind closed doors, draft small reforms to let voices like theirs be heard, while opting willingly at first to echo the hallowed names of others before them. Across Europe, quiet voices and stolen glances exchanging thoughts for gradual, even calculative, change. Goodwill schemes those ancestors and spirits might smile upon knowingly. The peaceful nature of this history preluda is what makes one question, was it the soothe of status or security that was more tangible? These sleepless nights dedicatedly unveiling each candle's precise watch as the moon undertucked its gentle embrace upon the countryside kept Lady Isolde adrift within dreams and softly spoken words clad in mind's hushed tones, unveiling breaths of assurance. Yet still, with every letter sent and each court discussed, the passage of women like Lady Isolde and Lady Alara began to subtly shift, like sands against a tide's retreat. With time, Lady Alara was able to dictate the terms of her own marriage, unheard of for a woman of her time, advocating for her heart's intertwining with duty. It was a delicate balance, echoing victories lost by many. It is here the testament rests. Noble women, despite their rank, danced within strings bound to societal scales. However, unyielding courage and wisdom attempted to strike the notes of freedom, their lament overshadowing resignation. Though bound in domains with bound paths, they crafted stories reshaping the world unknowingly yet with precision intoxicatingly vibrant. In the quietness of their victories, their legacies wove peacefully, perfect for sleeping, yet never sleeping itself, adroitly stirring wide hopeful gazes into dawn awaking gently from the precedent dusk upon their hearts. This gentle history, still watched quietly, bears testimony to noble women who through whispers and stories told, sought to color freedom within a telling so perfect for rest. Histories effaced yet eternally etched in kind reach within dreams known and unknown. In a time long before modern conveniences reshaped human life, the world was a tapestry of fields, forests, and tiny villages scattered across the countryside. Amid this landscape, peasants lived simple lives, defined by the rhythms of the land and the seasonal cycles of planting and harvest. Their homes were modest, typically built from materials gathered nearby, wood, stone, and thatch. In these communities, stories woven through generations came alive by the hearthside, whispering truths and weaving dreams for those who listened. Among these stories was the peasant bride's tale, a narrative passed down from mother to daughter. It was a tale not about fairy tale weddings or grandiose celebrations, but about the journey of a young woman from girlhood into the often demanding role of a peasant bride. This story, though sometimes romanticized in myth, was one of resilience, silent bravery, and the pursuit of autonomy against the tides of tradition. The peasant brides, much like their noble counterparts, were bound by societal expectations and familial obligations. However, their experiences often unfolded far from the view of written history, overshadowed by tales of nobility and grandeur. These brides did not choose their paths freely. Instead, their lives were orchestrated by the dictates of land, survival, and allegiance forged by marriage. Yet, in this limited sphere of influence, they carried a quiet strength. One could imagine a young peasant girl named Elira, living in a quaint village surrounded by rolling hills and fertile fields. Her life was a simple one, intertwined with the land she called home. As her family's second daughter, Elira knew that her destiny would likely be shaped by marriage, not for love but for necessity. Elira's mother told her the peasant bride's tale by the soft, flickering light of the hearth, her voice weaving the narrative with grace and care. Bring your love to the smallest tasks, her mother would say, echoing the lessons imbibed from her own mother. According to the tale, a peasant bride's love and patience could transform even the most menial work into something memorable. The day of Elira's marriage was not marked by grand ceremonies or lavish dresses. It was a day much like any other, the sky vast and blue above them, the earth a steady constant beneath their feet. The village gathered, their faces familiar and warm. A flicker of apprehension crossed Elira's mind, but it was swiftly replaced by determination. She would find her place in this new chapter of life. Marriage for a peasant bride entailed more than the union between two individuals. It was the merging of families and the continual sustenance of the community. Elira moved into her husband's family home, her days filled with familiar chores now set in a new context. Cooking, cleaning, mending, all acts born of necessity but also opportunities to craft a home marked by her influence. While noblewomen were ensconced in finery and educated in arts and letters, peasant brides like Elira were artisans of practicality. Their artistry lay in their ability to navigate the intricacies of family dynamics and village life, improvising solutions to the everyday challenges they faced. Autonomy for peasant brides was a delicate balance, a needle threading through the fabric of expectations. While they had little choice in choosing their husbands, they found agency in other ways, in the seeds they selected for their gardens, the remedies they concocted from herbs, the gentle guidance they offered their children. Like Elira, many peasant brides discovered power within themselves to shape their own stories, bringing them to life through subtle acts of defiance and ingenuity. Though history often remembers grand battles and noble decrees, the quiet resilience of these women etched an indelible mark upon the tapestry of time. With each generation, the peasant bride's tale adapts and evolves, echoing the truths gleaned from countless lives lived and lost to time. It stands as a reminder of those who with grace and courage walked paths carved by duty, yet never surrendered their spirit to the darkness of circumstance. In this world of permanent yet gentle cycles, the peasant brides were not so different from their noble counterparts, both bound by destiny, both yearning for the autonomy which lay beyond their reach. The peace found in their stories isn't in grand resolutions or fairy tale endings, but in the quiet acceptance of their role and in the small rebellions that wove vibrancy into the tapestry of their lives. These stories, nestled in the fields and whispered among the trees, are perfect companions for dreams, gently welcoming sleep with the promise of resilience and the warmth of timeless strength. In a time long ago, within the walls of a small village nestled in the lush countryside, there existed a tradition that danced through the very fabric of societal norms, the custom of dowries. This tale is one of peaceful transactions, where families orchestrated the union of their children with both love and pragmatism, weaving tales of negotiation, gifts, and legacy. As the sun would rise, casting a golden hue across the fields, mothers and fathers would sit with their children, weaving dreams of a prosperous future. In this place, every marriage was a bridge between families, a connection fortified by the exchange of dowries. The elders spoke of dowries not just as transactions but as symbols of trust and alliance, ensuring security and harmony between two homes. Once a marriage proposal was made, the village would come alive with gentle whispers of anticipated negotiations. Both families would gather in each other's homes, bringing forth offerings that told a story of their lineage. These offerings were not merely commodities, but carried the emblem of shared histories and dreams of a future filled with unity and prosperity. A tapestry crafted from fine silk, its patterns narrating tales of valor and perseverance, would be spread across the negotiation table. A chest of silver, heirlooms handed down through generations, spoke of the bride's rich ancestral heritage. Cases filled with spices, saffron, and turmeric, tokens of trade from distant lands, were offered, promising a life of flavor and luxury for the new couple's home. In this peaceful realm, marriages were anchored not in opulence but in understanding and mutual respect. The dowry was a commitment, a whisper of fidelity and assurance echoing through the corridors of time. These offerings tied families together, creating a bond stronger than mere flesh and blood, a bond cemented in mutual prosperity and respect. The elders of the village, often summoned to bless the union, would recount tales of dowries far and wide, stories of queens who gained empires through their marriages, of peaceful transitions of power, and nations secured through these sacred unions. Each story bore the same heartwarming message, the promise of a future secured through careful deliberation and respect. As twilight descended and the sky became a tapestry of stars, the village would celebrate these unions with dances and songs. Laughter would mingle with the gentle lull of the evening breeze, carrying stories of love threaded through with the promise of a bountiful future, where families retained their honor and grew together. In those tranquil evenings, where dreams unfurled gently like the petals of a night blooming flower, the villagers would recount the lineage of dowries that journeyed through time. They cherished the peace sustained not merely by central authority or decree, but through the commitment forged in these peaceful traditions. The notion of dowries, when perceived as a form of care and respect, shone as a beacon of unity and familial alliance. These were not transactions of barter, but offerings of tribute that ensured every bride entered her new life respected and cherished. Families worked to ensure she carried with her a blessing, a reminder she was supported, loved, and honored in her endeavor to build a life of warmth and harmony. Thus, beneath the quiet stars, as the languid song of crickets formed a symphony with the whispers of the winds, the village nestled in the arms of prosperity and peace. The tales of dowries remained as vivid as ever, each story a repository of promise and secure futures, ensuring those who listened closed their eyes with a heart full of peace, lulled by the promise of a brighter tomorrow grounded in care, respect, and community. In the soft glow of candlelight that illuminated the ancient cloister, whispers danced like gentle breezes among women who gathered, speaking in hushed tones that only the stones seemed privy to. The cloister had long stood as a sacred space where knowledge passed quietly, each woman bestowed with wisdom prudently gathered from those who came before them. These whispers, though soft, carried the weight of centuries and were instrumental in preparing young brides for their new lives. The cloister stood in a lush valley, ensconced by rolling hills and bordered by a meandering river. It was a place of tranquility, where peace pervaded and the burdens of the outside world melted away upon stepping through its arched doorway. Nature itself seemed to conspire with the serenity within. The gentle rustling of leaves in the wind accompanied the low whispers, as if the trees themselves were keen to listen. Women from nearby villages would journey to the cloister, cloaked in simple garb, cradling woven baskets filled with offerings freshly baked bread, aromatic herbs, and sometimes a simple bouquet of wildflowers. These gifts were given in gratitude for the invaluable counsel they received within those walls. The knowledge shared among these women did not stem from books or scholarly scripts, but instead from lived experience, passed down from mother to daughter, from sister to sister. These were stories and insights about life, love, and the subtle art of navigating the nuances of marriage. Each gathering was a tapestry of wisdom, with various threads woven into vibrant patterns of life lessons. The talks covered an array of subjects, from managing household finances, understanding and nurturing affection, to more elusive subjects like maintaining harmony and suppressing discord. Elder women, respected for their years and the depth of their insights, led the gatherings. Their voices, though quiet, held authority and gentle encouragement. They shared anecdotes filled with humor, empathy, and sometimes solemnity. These women knew that laughter often paved the way to understanding, and a shared jest could bond the listeners in collective joy. One such elder, known affectionately as Mother Helena, was particularly revered. With a serene smile and eyes like deep pools of wisdom, she gently guided the conversations, ensuring that every woman felt heard and valued. Her presence was akin to a warm embrace, her gentle laugh infectious, and her advice both practical and profound. Mother Helena often spoke of the importance of patience as a bride. With a soft, lilting cadence, she would narrate stories of times when a kind word had softened a hardened heart, or when choosing silence had allowed tempers to cool. The young women listened intently, absorbing the tales and storing the wisdom for a time when they might need to draw upon it. The cloister was also where practical skills were learned. In one corner, older women taught the art of weaving, their deft fingers moving with nimbleness aged like fine wine. In another, lessons on cooking rich, fragrant dishes took place, with spices passed around to be inhaled deeply, their scents lingering pleasurably in the air. Songs too had their place within these walls. Melodies hummed softly by knowing voices filled the cloister, each note a soothing balm, each lyric a passage of hidden counsel. These songs carried secrets, veiling them in a beauty only revealed to those who listened closely. The cloister thrived on this sense of community, each woman a vital thread in a beautifully elaborate weave. Here, there was a deep understanding and unwavering support, a space where hopes were shared and fears dispelled by gentle reassurance. The world outside might have been ever evolving, driven by change and upheaval, but within these walls, time seemed to linger with purpose. The past, with all its wisdom, existed harmoniously with the present, crafting a peaceful continuum. One evening, as the sun began its gentle descent, bathing the cloister in hues of amber and gold, a young bride named Elara arrived. Her eyes, bright with expectation but shadowed by anxiety, met those of her mentor, Mother Helena, who offered a reassuring smile. Elara had many questions, fears that bottled up inside her like the rising tide. With patience and grace, Mother Helena and the others provided her with tales of their own beginnings, reaffirming the universal nature of her journey. Their words were comforting, a reflection of shared experiences, diluted through laughter and gentle touches. So it was that Elara, along with generations of women before her, received the strength imparted by these gatherings in whispers. It was a ritual of transition, from maidenhood to the nuanced relationship of marriage, enriched by the knowledge of those who had walked the path before. The cloister's role was unwavering, a sentinel of wisdom wreathed in ivy, its purpose clear, its value undiminished by the passage of time. Here, in this tranquil setting, brides were not only prepared for marriage but bonded into a sisterhood of allies, a lifetime sorority held together by shared stories and secret whispers. Whispers which, though still, moved mountains within hearts, and while quiet, crafted a symphony of understanding that would echo through the chambers of life. And so, as the stars dotted the sky above the cloister that night, Elara, and the women who comprised her community, stood under the vast expanse of darkness, knowing that they were never truly alone. With the whispers still lingering in their minds, they went forth with renewed courage and wisdom acquired to face the blessings and challenges of a new day. The history of pagan traditions and their influence on Christian marital customs is a fascinating tale of transition and transformation. For centuries, ancient rituals across Europe and beyond guided the practice of marriage, imbuing it with symbolism and meaning. When Christianity spread and took hold, these pagan rituals did not simply vanish. Instead, they morphed, blending with the new religious context to create a rich tapestry of customs that continue to the modern day. In ancient times, pagan marriages were diverse and varied, tailored to the specific beliefs and practices of different cultures. A common feature, however, was the great reverence for nature and the elements, often viewed as essential participants in the ceremonies. For example, in many Celtic traditions, the couple would be symbolically joined together under the open skies, surrounded by the elements that would guide their shared life. Such ceremonies often included the ritual of handfasting, an ancient practice where the couple's hands were bound together, often using ribbons or cords, to symbolize their union. This act was accompanied by invoking gods and otherworldly spirits to bless the marriage with prosperity and love. The handfasting ceremony was sometimes considered a form of trial marriage, lasting a year and a day, at the end of which the couple could choose to make their union permanent or part ways. As Christianity began to spread across Europe, early Christian leaders observed these practices, understanding that outright dismissal of pagan traditions could lead to resistance. Instead, a synthesis of practices allowed for a smoother transition. Handfasting, for example, was gradually absorbed into Christian customs, with the binding of hands becoming a symbolic act in many Christian weddings, often accompanying vows in the presence of witnesses. Despite these fusions, there was sometimes friction as old and new beliefs clashed. The Church sought to establish marriage as a sacrament, supervised and blessed by the clergy. In contrast, Many pagan traditions celebrated marriage in natural settings or community gatherings, highlighting the role of family and community over religious ceremonies. The calendar too played a significant role. Pagan festivals celebrating fertility and the change of seasons often influenced the timing of marriages. May Day or Beltane, for instance, was a popular time for unions, celebrated as a season of life and renewal. This tradition persisted as many ancient European communities saw spring as a propitious time for weddings, and this timing eventually melded into Christian customs, leading to popular spring and summer weddings. Another significant aspect that leapt from pagan to Christian traditions was the presence and role of symbolic elements such as flowers, which were long used in pagan ceremonies for their beauty, scent, and supposed protective qualities. The practice of adorning brides with floral wreaths or incorporating flower petals into ceremonies is a legacy of these ancient rituals. This emphasis on floral symbolism carried through into bridal bouquets and the decoration of weddings with significant blooms, an aspect that persists in many wedding customs today. The role of food and feast also has its roots in these early celebrations. Pagan marriages often culminated in a grand feast, a communal celebration involving family and friends. This act of communal sharing emphasized the marriage as not just a union between two individuals, but as a bond that brought together entire communities. As Christianity embraced marriage as a holy union, the feasting remained, often becoming a focal point for wedding celebrations worldwide. The peaceful blending of these elements of pagan and Christian practices expanded over the years, creating marital customs rich with symbolism and shared meaning. The story weaves back and forth through time, seamlessly integrating the pagan reverence for the natural world with the Christian emphasis on spiritual unity. In conclusion, the influence of pagan traditions on Christian marital customs has woven a seamless connection through time, one marked by transformation and adaptation rather than outright conflict. The peaceful coexistence of these traditions stands as an enduring testament to the resilience and adaptability of cultural practices, reminding us of our capacity to harmoniously blend the old with the new. Throughout history, marriage has often been a significant milestone, deeply intertwined with cultural, familial, and societal expectations. In many societies, young brides were thrust into the complex and often challenging institution of marriage at tender ages, when they were barely out of childhood themselves. This narrative examines the emotional and psychological toll of marriage on young brides, exploring the silent grief and loss of identity many experienced. The bride's silent tears. The imagery of a young bride, silent and pensive, clad in elaborate wedding garments, often masked the complexity of emotions she held within. This was a time when marriage was not just a union of love, but a strategic alliance between families, an economic transaction, or a social obligation fulfilled. Love might follow later, or might not at all. In societies where young girls were often married off soon after reaching puberty, the transition from girlhood to womanhood was abrupt and jarring. The bride, having bid farewell to her carefree childhood days, was now expected to seamlessly adopt the mantle of a responsible wife and eventually, a mother. The pressure to perform these roles perfectly was immense, and any deviation could lead to severe consequences, not only for the bride but for her entire family. The silence of these young women was loud, echoing the resignation of their fate. They might sit by the window, day after day, watching the life they once knew slip away like sands through an hourglass. Their dreams and aspirations were often set aside, seen as secondary to their duties within the household and to their husband. One could imagine the internal landscape of such a bride, a rich tapestry of emotions, woven together with threads of fear, hope, sadness, and resilience. Her tears were often shed in solitude, in the quiet of the night when the weight of the day had settled and left room for sorrow to surface. The cultural expectations during those eras often dictated that a woman's worth was tied to her ability to maintain a harmonious home. This often led to a complex relationship between desire and duty. The young bride learned to quell her personal ambitions and desires in favor of fulfilling her prescribed role. Such experiences were not confined to one nation or culture, but were a shared reality for young brides across the world. In rural villages, urban centers, wealthy homes, and impoverished huts alike, young women faced the shared experience of a profound change in life, which they seldom had control over. Their education, if any, could have been rudimentary, barely enough to prepare them for the complexities of marital life. Guided by mothers, aunts, or elder sisters, young brides were given advice and whispered truths, some comforting, others disconcerting, about what was expected in their new lives. In certain cultures, the bride was expected to leave her family home entirely, moving into the household of her husband's family. Here, she would have to navigate intricate family dynamics and ingratiate herself into her new environment. The loss of the familiar could be profound, sometimes leading to isolation and a melancholy that was hard to shake off. The bride's silent tears thus symbolize the unspoken struggles faced by these young women. Their smiles during marriage ceremonies, immortalized in photographs and memories, could not hide the inner turmoil experienced by those who recognized their newfound responsibilities and losses. Marriage in these contexts was often a performance, a display for the public eye, behind which lay the private struggles of these brides. They faced societal scrutiny and familial pressures, often feeling they had to live up to an impossible standard. Over the years, many young brides found solace in solidarity with other women in similar situations. The shared experience fostered a sense of sisterhood, a network of unseen support. They exchanged letters, notes, whispers, and tales of what marriage truly meant, lending each other the strength to persevere through hardship. Responses to these challenges varied. Some women managed to carve out spaces of autonomy within the institution of marriage. Others found strength in motherhood, finding joy and a renewed sense of purpose in their children. Still, others succumbed to the emotional toll, living lives in quiet resignation. Yet, despite the challenges, flickers of hope and resilience often shone through. Many young brides developed an indomitable spirit, a silent strength that saw them through the darkest days. Over time, they could cultivate happiness from the small patches of joy that came their way, building new identities amid their roles as wives and mothers. The legacy of these young brides and their silent tears lives on, a poignant reminder of the emotional and psychological journey encapsulated in marriage. In examining their stories, we gain insight into the resilience of the human spirit, surviving, adapting, and sometimes flourishing under circumstances that might seem impossible today. In the softer whispers of history, their voices emerge, gently reminding us of the price that came with societal expectations. It calls for an empathy that transcends time, urging us to recognize them not just as brides from the past, but as real human beings whose courage remains a testament to time itself. So, when we consider the youthful bride, we recognize her story is not just of silent tears. It's a tale of inner strength, resilience, and a search for identity in a world that asked her to be everything but herself. It's a reminder that even in the peaceful retelling of history, there is room to honor their silent struggles and celebrate the triumphs, howsoever minor, amid the larger canvas of life. In the gentle heart of the countryside, surrounded by the rustling symphony of trees and the tranquil murmur of streams, lies a quaint village. Here, the air is fragrant with the scent of blossoming flowers, and the land is bathed in a golden hue as the sun dances across the fields. This serene place is where tales of peace and heritage intertwine, creating a tapestry of stories that cradle the minds of those seeking slumber. The tale we're about to unfold takes us into the lives of brides from centuries past, whose personal belongings whispered secrets of their individuality and autonomy. Beyond the customary dowry, those generations-old traditions of wealth and property exchange, these women carried with them cherished items that transcended material value. Personal belongings, those treasures clutched close to a bride's heart, often held deep emotional resonance. A meticulously embroidered handkerchief, a silver comb passed down from a great-grandmother, or a favorite volume of poetry. Each artifact held stories and threads of history, weaving the fabric of identity across time. The significance of these belongings was profound. Within the context of a marriage, they were symbols, tokens that asserted a bride's presence, her past, and her future autonomy. In a world where alliances were often forged through family ties and strategic marriages, these items spoke of individuality, love, and personal choice. Amidst the quiet lanes of the village, homes were filled with relics that bore witness to these intimate histories. A tapestry hung with care on a cottage wall might have seen generations of life, marriages, births, and even the blissful solitary moments of reading or reflection. Each thread, vivid in color but softly worn by time, whispered of the hands that had crafted it, and knot by knot, as a gift from a mother to her daughter. In the tranquil setting of these rustic abodes, tales of brides and their treasured possessions were passed down through the ages, a legacy that lived in gentle stories told by the fireside. One could imagine a grandmother weaving memories, her fingers tracing the lace of an ancestral dress, as she recounted the first time she wore it, a vision of grace on the day she pledged her vows. Through these quiet, peaceful histories, a pattern emerges, a continuity of personal agency and dignity preserved through seemingly simple artifacts. Yet, these are not merely objects, they are vessels of connection, linking generations through their whispers and the tender way in which they were handed from one hand to another. As the day's light fades, casting a silvery veil across the village, the stories continue to breathe softly. They're carried on the breeze, rustling leaves yet gentle enough to lull the scribe to a peaceful night's sleep. The heart of this history beats not with clamor, but with the gentle, life-affirming pulse of personal empowerment and heritage, warmly wrapped in every thread and cherished belonging. Thus, in the soothing embrace of the night, one's thoughts may drift upon the stories of brides and their belongings, peaceful, introspective, and perfect companions to guide one into dreams. These are the echoes of lives lived simply, yet enriched by the personal and deeply meaningful artifact, a reminder that peace lives not only in the broad strokes of history, but also in cherished mementos that continue to resonate through the ages. In times gone by, weddings were more than just personal ceremonies shared between two individuals. They were grand occasions that brought entire communities together in a tapestry of traditions, rituals, and celebrations that reinforced societal roles and expectations. These ceremonies, rich with history and meaning, played a pivotal role in maintaining the social fabric of their times. Picture a quaint village nestled in a serene valley, surrounded by rolling hills and vibrant meadows. The pace of life was gentle, and the people lived by the rhythm of the seasons. In such a setting, a wedding meant rejoicing, but it also meant reaffirming old ties and sometimes forging new ones, binding together families and, by extension, communities. From the moment an engagement was announced, the buzz of anticipation and preparation enveloped the village. The elders, revered custodians of tradition, would gather the families to discuss the upcoming nuptials. These discussions were not merely about the union of two souls. They were dialogues that defined and sometimes redefined alliances within the community. As the wedding day approached, households were alive with activity. Men and women took on roles that highlighted the importance of their positions in society. Craftsmen made gifts and dowries, women cooked elaborate meals, and the elders prepared their tales and blessings for the ceremony. Even children understood the importance of the event, participating in dances and songs, learning from a young age the significance of these traditions. The day of the wedding was one of joy and pageantry, unfolding like a scene from a fairy tale. People decorated their homes, pathways were lined with flowers, and the air was thick with the sounds of laughter and music. The bride and groom, adorned in their finest, were symbols of the community's continuity and prosperity. The rituals began, some were solemn, others joyous. Each gesture was loaded with symbolism, the exchange of rings, the blessings, the sacred vows. The community watched, acknowledging the weight of these promises. These weddings often incorporated cultural dances that weaved together the mythical and the historical, reminding everyone of their shared past and collective future. After the ceremonies, feasting and dancing continued late into the night. Stories were shared, and songs were sung, an assurance that history and tradition were never forgotten. The wedding was a narrative of its own, a moment where every individual had a part, a role in the larger story of the community. As the celebrations wound down, there was a palpable sense of unity, an acknowledgement that the joining of two individuals had reinforced the bonds of many more. People retired to their homes with hearts full of joy and spirits uplifted, knowing they were part of something larger than themselves, a thread in the intricate tapestry of their society. These weddings were indeed more than just personal ceremonies. They were community affairs that reaffirmed roles, strengthened ties, and ensured the continuity and cohesion of the community. In the gentle rhythms of days gone by, they provided a perfect harmony in which one could find peace and solace, akin to a gentle lullaby, readying one for a tranquil night's sleep. Throughout history, Bridal attire has embodied much more than just fabric and thread. It represents an intricate tapestry of cultural heritage, symbolism, and social norms. The bridal gown has evolved from its simple beginnings into the marking of a pivotal moment in a person's life. Whether it is the purity signified by white or the splendor of ornate detailing, every element is meant to convey deeper meanings about the bride's place in society, her family status, and the cultural backdrop against which she stands. Historically, bridal attire was less about adhering to contemporary fashion and more about reflecting the bride's social status and familial honor. In ancient times, brides did not wear the iconic white dress that became popular in Western cultures only in the 19th century. Instead, they wore garments that would bring honor to their families, using available resources and skills. For instance, brides in ancient Rome wore a tunic and a flame-colored veil representing the hearth and home. The veil, called flamim, was less a fashion choice and more a symbol of protection, devotion, and submission. Medieval European brides often wore dresses in vibrant colors, rich fabrics, and valuable furs, showcasing their family's wealth and social standing. Bordeaux's red, deep emerald, golden yellow, and royal blue were favorites, with their sumptuous appearance serving as testimony to the bride's high rank and the esteem of her family. Ornamental and intricate embroidery, sometimes sewn with precious metals and gems, was incorporated into the attire to further emphasize nobility. In cultures across the world, bridal attire carries layers of symbolic meaning. In China, red bridal attire bespeaks good fortune, joy, and prosperity. The color red is a talisman to ward off evil spirits. Its vibrancy symbolizes fertility and the potential for a strong family lineage. Traditionally, Chinese brides wear qiupao or qiangsam, adorned with elaborate embroidery of dragons and phoenixes, emblematic of balance in marital union. Indian brides are clad in vibrant saris or lehengas, bedecked with exquisite zari work and intricate motifs that portray their cultural heritage. The rich colors and embellishments are said to attract happiness and ward off negative energies. Red is predominantly chosen for the bridal dress, celebrating auspicious beginnings, sexuality, and economic stability. Additionally, the adornment of henna, with its intricate designs, symbolizes the deep spiritual wishes bestowed upon the bride in her journey as she enters her new life. In many African cultures, bridal attire is a showcase of vibrant colors and textures, with each element carrying specific meanings. For instance, in Nigeria, the aso oak fabric, hand-woven and highly prized, is used to signify the bride's Yoruba heritage and social standing. The aso oak often contains traditional patterns that represent continuity and community. Jewelry, such as cowries or coral beads, may be added to signify wealth and prosperity. Turning to Scandinavian countries, brides once adorned their heads with crowns made of silver or gold, symbolizing honor and unity. This headdress would often include motifs of leaves or flowers, representing rebirth and the promise of new life. Flowers, in fact, have long held significance in bridal attire across cultures. The bouquet, a modern staple in weddings, traditionally contained herbs and flowers that symbolized different values like loyalty, love, and fertility. In white, as the universal symbol of purity and innocence, found its popularity in bridal wear through Queen Victoria's wedding to Prince Albert in 1840. Prior to this, brides often wore dresses of their best outfits, which were seldom white. Victoria's choice of a white gown set a precedent that resonated through the ages, soon becoming a Western standard. The concept of purity, radiated through the white dress, stands as a reflection of cultural norms and societal expectations of women. But as we delve deeper into these histories, the symbolism behind bridal attire unfolds like a serene narrative. It is in these stories that a peaceful history emerges, fit for those seeking tranquil thoughts. Every stitch in the bridal gown whispers tales of its cultural journey, encapsulating familial pride, societal stature, and the intimate stories of those who have worn it. The bridal attire is not merely an article of clothing, but a ceremonial vestment of unity, tradition, and cultural continuity. Today, amidst shifting fashions and modern customs, the symbolism stitched into bridal attire persists. Brides worldwide continue to embrace their cultural heritage through their dress, adding personal touches that reflect their individuality while honoring their roots. Be it the modern simplicity cherished in minimalist circles, or the splendor of a traditional outfit bedecked in historic embellishments, the essence remains timeless, a celebration of unity, tradition, and the hopes of a future shared in profound love. In the quiet hamlets of medieval Europe, intertwined with the gentle rustle of trees and the distant call of songbirds, the concept of vows was more than just a spoken word. Vows were pledges that held the weight of a person's honor and were often bound by the solemnity of the divine. These vows, particularly when they involved women, were often intertwined with the fabric of legal and social contracts. In the heart of an idyllic village, nestled among the lush green hills and serene streams, lived a young woman named Alara. Her life, like that of many women of her time, was woven with expectations set by both her family and the society she lived in. Alara's story was one such peaceful tapestry of vows and contracts, where each thread was a blend of personal commitment and societal obligation. Alara had grown up watching her mother and grandmother uphold their vows with a solemn reverence. Whether it was the vow of marriage or the contractual obligations that came with managing a household, these commitments were not to be taken lightly. It was a world where promises meant more than the mere utterance of words. They were imbued with the sanctity of rituals and the binding power of societal norms. Soon, Alara found herself poised at the threshold of womanhood, and with it came the time to consider her own vows. The custom of marriage was not just a union of two souls, but a merger of families and fortunes, often negotiated and sealed by formal contracts. In this process of betrothal, vows played a pivotal role. The solemn promise to honor, love, and cherish wasn't just a promise to a partner, but a binding contract that extended to familial and societal ties. On a peaceful day under a warm sun, tarry with the scent of flowers and ripe fields, Alara sat with her mother under the old oak tree that watched over their home for generations. Her mother spoke of the importance of the vows she would soon make. A vow, she said, is not merely a promise spoken aloud. It's a whisper of your soul's commitment, a contract with life itself. These words lingered in Alara's heart. When she was introduced to Marcellus, a kind-hearted young man from the adjacent village, their meetings were accompanied by gentle conversations about everything and nothing. With time, the whispers of love turned into thoughtful words of commitment. It was then that Alara began to understand the deeper essence of vows, beyond their legal confines. The day of their hand-fasting, a ceremonial promise, dawned with a serenity that seemed to envelop the entire village in a blanket of peace. The village gathered under the same oak tree, where ribbons of gold and blue fluttered in the gentle breeze. The symbolic ceremony was blessed by nature itself, underscoring the sacred element in their agreement to share their lives. Before the watchful eyes of their families and neighbors, Alara and Marcellus exchanged vows. In that moment, their promises transformed into an enduring contract, not only with each other, but with the village, for the community would hold them accountable to their word. As life unfurled, Alara found herself managing more than her home. She became a guardian of his land and legacy, stitching every day with threads of mutual respect and love. She realized that vows and contracts were not shackles of obligation, but rather the careful weaving of life's intricate tapestry, layered with understanding and support. Throughout her life, Alara's unwavering commitment was reflected not only in her marriage, but as a reflection of the broader societal duties she undertook. She bore witness to the powerful bonds that vows created, both written and unwritten, and how they governed the rhythm of life around her. As years passed like the gentle flow of a river, Alara grew old, yet her mind stayed sharp and her heart content. She shared her wisdom with the next generation, under the same oak tree, teaching them the sanctity of vows. She impressed upon them the values she held so dear, the trust, love, and accountability that defined her own life. In the end, hers was a life marked by peace and fulfillment, woven gently with vows and contracts that served not only as legal obligations, but as sacred bonds of human connection. In this quiet village, amidst the whispering winds and gentle landscapes, the story of vows and contracts continued, nurturing the spirit of community and harmony. And so, as night wrapped the village in its starry blanket, Alara's story drifted into the realm of dreams, a peaceful lullaby for those who believed in the sacredness of a promise. In the annals of history, amidst the chronicles of grand battles and renowned heroes, there rests the quieter tales of the ladies' chambers, sanctuaries of serenity and wisdom. These sacred spaces were an integral part of the cultural and societal structures of historical civilizations, places where brides and women gathered to find solace, advice, and companionship away from the predominantly male-driven domains of the outside world. Imagine, if you will, stepping back into times of yore, into a time when cities were burgeoning hubs of trade and empires stretched across vast lands. Here, in these moments between the larger strokes of the history of empires, decorum and public spectacle, lay the whispers of the chambers where women congregated. These chambers were centers of learning and support, cocooned spaces where anticipations of future visions and rumination of past events merged beautifully. The essential role of these chambers was manifold. They served not merely as quarters of seclusion, but rather as entities of empowerment and education. Within these walls, women of various generations would impart knowledge and share wisdom. They would pass down tales of their mothers and grandmothers, legends entwined with the cultural fabric of nations. A typical scene within a lady's chamber may consist of burgeoning conversations around maternal sages and young maidens, engrossed in tales old as time, animated by flickering candlelight. The atmosphere was hushed, introspective, a tapestry of voices that ebbed and flowed like a gentle brook. Here in this serenity, brides discovered vital counsel surrounding the mystery and journey of marriage. Each woman, whether a young bride, to-be or a matronly guide, contributed to the storytelling. Discussions were not always solemn. Often, they sparkled with wit and humor, reflecting the shared experiences and common challenges faced by them as women. Laughter would echo softly against the walls, a testament to both the camaraderie and the resilience nurtured within the space. The ladies' chambers transcended mere domestic functions. They emerged as realms of informal education, where skills, knowledge, and self-awareness were enhanced. Embroidery, weaving, and other intricate crafts were taught alongside lessons in herbal medicine and traditional healing practices, skills that were crucial for maintaining the well-being of families aside from mere decoration or art. Apart from the crafts, philosophical discussions would unfold in such quarters. Thoughts about justice, fairness, and womanly endeavors to navigate the larger patriarchal social orders with subtleties unique to the feminine wit and consideration. These discourses, while intangible, contributed to shaping a more rounded worldview that percolated into every avenue of life. In tales spun within these comforting walls, the stories from the ladies' chambers might involve wise quips from older matrons, bright women who, through lifetimes of observation and reflection, had much to relay. They may talk of the moon phases and their effects on daily life, interpreting dreams and omens, all integral to family and community decisions. Men were seldom privy to such conversations, and thus the advice and muse of these women naturally became the heartbeat of family folklore, passed down through generations. The ladies' chambers symbolized a kind of uncharted territory where terms were predominantly set by women for women. In some, as night descended on ancient cities and households brimmed with the reveries of men, distant melodies would play, filling the air, a delightful symphony composed by women within their chambers, songs of joy, of longing, and of shared courage. And as day broke, these traces of laughter and song echoed through the homes, a silent but enduring testament to the roles these women played. Thus, in their own gentle and often overlooked way, the tales from the ladies' chambers contributed layers of enduring legacies, binding communities with threads of familiarity and collective memory. They offer us a glimpse into worlds where women reigned over stories, knowledge, and learning, a domain as influential as any other. For in the peaceful confines of those spaces, the seeds of wisdom were sown, tending gardens of dreams and realities for generations to come. The importance of these chambers can't be understated. Forged from the simple human need for communication, the exchange of ideas, and emotional solidarity, these spaces ensured that despite the lack of voice in the larger political realm, women maintained influence within their own rights and realms, shaping histories with each story whispered, each song sung, and each lesson taught, long before they knew history would start to recognize them. Since ancient times, human beings have looked to the heavens and to omens from the natural world to guide them in their most important decisions, and to predict outcomes in areas of profound significance. Among the many facets of life that astrology and omens have influenced is the institution of marriage. Historically, the convergence of the celestial with human endeavors has been a source of comfort, guiding those uncertain about their romantic futures. The marriage bond was not just a personal agreement between individuals, but often a significant economic and social contract affecting entire families and communities. In ancient Mesopotamia, astrology was deeply intertwined with daily life, reaching its zenith with its systematized zodiacs. These zodiac signs, often inscribed onto clay tablets, were used to predict everything from agricultural yields to marital success. The celestial entities, gods and goddesses residing in the stars, were believed to possess direct influence over earthly affairs. A prospective couple, or more likely their families, would consult priests who specialized in reading the signs and interpreting the positions of the planets and stars to determine the auspiciousness of the union. The harmony between the couple's natal charts was supposed to mirror harmony in the skies above. In ancient Rome, astrology played a similarly profound role. The Roman penchant for omens was epitomized in the practice of augury, the interpretation of the will of the gods by observing the flight patterns or behaviors of birds. As with the Mesopotamians, Romans believed that divine will sharply guided earthly affairs, including marriage. For a wealthy Roman family, a good match might hinge on such omens. Perhaps a pair of doves flew in unison while courting, seen as a prophecy for marital harmony. Conversely, a crow crossing from left to right might be interpreted as a sign of marital discord or infidelity. Moving into medieval Europe, astrology transformed and adapted under various cultural and religious influences. During this period, noble families heavily enlisted astrologers to create natal charts for their children, and significant attention was paid to the alignment of stars when arranging marriages. These astrologers held court alongside customary advisors, wielding great influence upon marriage decisions made for the sake of alliances and maintaining bloodlines. Superstition and faith in the stars were interwoven into the very fabric of medieval society, lending a sense of order and predictability to the great unknown that was each marital union. In the Eastern traditions of China and India, astrology and the examination of omens similarly played critical roles. Chinese astrology often involved the use of the lunar calendar and the 12 zodiac animals. The compatibility between the signs of the bride and groom was believed to indicate the success or failure of a marriage. An astrologically incompatible pairing might expect misfortune, while a compatible match heralded prosperity and happiness. In India, Vedic astrology has long been an indispensable part of the wedding arrangements. The candlelit horoscope plays a pivotal role, predicting everything from the intimacy between partners to financial security. The movement of celestial bodies, particularly planets like Venus and Jupiter known for their associations with love and fortune, was meticulously calculated to finalize marriage dates and timings. Throughout the centuries, omens and signs have lent an air of solemn ritual to marriage practices, perceived as both powerful ally and dangerous warning from the divine. In many cultures worldwide, an omen observed on the wedding day itself was taken with the utmost gravity. An unexpected storm might be read as a warning of a tumultuous partnership, while a sunrise ceremony blessed by a rising sun could signal a future of boundless energy and joy. The influence of astrology and omens has not been limited to predicting interpersonal harmony. Economic fortunes, the success of progeny, and the general health and well-being of the marriage were all seen as written in the stars. By consulting the stars and interpreting portents, societies have intertwined their fears, hopes, and expectations with the cosmic dance above them. Even in today's more secular age, many couples continue to seek astrological advice when contemplating marriage, relying on ancient practices to imbue their unions with a timeless elegance and reassurance. Whether out of genuine belief or a romantic nod to tradition, astrology and omens remain evocative symbols of humanity's quest to elucidate the intimate mysteries and uncertainties of matrimonial bonds. The interpretations may vary widely, yet the underlying truth is universal. In every culture and era, humans have always looked beyond themselves for guidance, seeking signs of enduring love written among the stars. In the serene village of Amalapuram, time seemed to slow down just enough to let life blossom in tranquility. The lush rice fields swayed gently in the afternoon breeze, and the narrow alleys meandered through aisles of neatly spaced houses, each telling tales of generations past. Life here was uncomplicated, rewarding, and peaceful, at least on the surface. But beneath the quietude, threads of discord had begun weaving their tapestry. Dare, a tradition intended to unite families, sometimes emerged as a toxic root cause for disputes that could unravel family ties and sour relationships formed over lifetimes. The tendency to demand more than agreed upon or feel cheated after receiving it could lead to simmering tensions within families, often escalating into bitter feuds. In the heart of Amalapuram lived the joyous Patel family, who were well, respected, and lovingly engaged in community affairs. Their daughter, Meera, brought laughter wherever she went, and perhaps the first flush of excitement when the talk of her marriage began to circulate. The villagers anticipated a beautiful ceremony, peaceful alliances, and the beginning of a blissful chapter for Meera. Yet, as they say, appearances can be deceiving. Meera's betrothal to Rajan from the neighboring village, a match deemed perfect by both families, was the talk of the town. Rajan was a young man of good character and well placed in his family's business. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, the Patel family and Rajan's kin engaged in amiable discussions over dowry, a customary practice not just in their culture, but pervasive across many societies over time. Both families reached an agreement over the dowry, or so they thought. On the eve of the wedding, just as the air was thick with the aroma of marigolds and anticipation, a quiet yet palpable tension arose. It began with a sideways comment, a seed that quickly blossomed into mistrust. Meera's family felt the demands increase stealthily, while Rajan's family believed they were promised more than they received. With swirling words and sharp glares, this misunderstanding paved the way for gossip among relatives who had gathered. Each echoing comment added fuel to an already smoldering discontent, and before long, the joyous celebration teetered on the brink of turning into something acrimonious. Friends whispered behind their hands, casting glances at the growing divide. The situation quickly devolved into one where Meera became the unexpected battleground for these disputes. The weight of expectations and her family's honor rested heavily upon her young shoulders. After the vibrant colors of the wedding faded and the guests returned to their homes, she moved into Rajan's household, a home she had hoped would welcome her with open arms and warmth. Yet the unresolved tension from the dowry dispute loomed over her new life like a cloud ready to burst. Rajan too felt the pressure, torn between loyalty to his family and love for his new bride. Innocuous disagreements between the families that once might have been overlooked now often led to harsh words and estrangement. As dowry disputes often do, the lingering unease began to seep into Meera's daily life. Simple conversations could quickly escalate into hostile discussions. The sheer anxiety of keeping peace strained Meera's spirit. Those moments of laughter she was once known for became rare, replaced by anxious glances and heavy silence. Despite it all, Meera resolved to nurture peace and bridge the chasms widened by discord. She embarked on a patient journey of understanding and forgiveness, striving to heal the rift tearing through her family, an arduous endeavor met with small victories and occasional setbacks. The tale of Meera mirrors numerous others, a poignant reflection of the turbulence that unresolved dowry disputes could bring, affecting countless lives and turning homes into battlegrounds for silent wars. Her perseverance in the face of hostility underscores a vital lesson. Communication and empathy often precede peace and understanding. In time, her efforts bore fruit. Families came together during a harvest festival, healing kindness gradually settling over stubborn animosities. The bonds of kin were tentatively strengthened one conversation at a time. With patience, gratitude, and love, they began knitting their fractures into spaces for reconciliation. Though dowry disputes continue even today, the lessons that ancient villages encapsulate remind us that love and understanding have the power to transform even the most complex of historical customs into peaceful coexistence. In the tranquil Amalapuram village, as shadows of the past lengthen into warm twilights, the stories of family feuds serve as gentle reminders that resolution and harmony are always within reach. Once upon a time, in the serene village of Elysium, nestled between rolling hills and lush green meadows, there was a harmonious community where familial bonds were cherished deeply. In this picturesque village lived a young bride named Alara, who had recently embarked on her journey of married life with her beloved husband, Orion. This tale unfolds amidst the tranquil beauty and gentle rhythm of daily life in Elysium, where the role of mothers-in-law was woven intricately into the fabric of family dynamics. Alara had heard many tales and whispers about the intricate and often delicate relationships that brides shared with their mothers, in-law. She approached this new chapter with an open heart, eager yet slightly apprehensive about forming a bond with her husband's mother, Celeste. Celeste was a woman of wisdom and grace, admired by many in the village for her calm demeanor and nurturing spirit. Her experience in life and marriage bestowed upon her a gentle authority within the family, a role she embraced with kindness and understanding. In Elysium, the elders spoke of the historical significance of mothers, in-law within the community, tracing back generations. They were seen as the keepers of tradition, the pillars of familial wisdom, and often the architects of harmony within the household. As Alara stepped into her new home, she was welcomed by Celeste with open arms. There was a custom in Elysium where the mother-in-law would share tea with the new bride, a ritual that symbolized an unspoken promise of guidance and support. Celeste poured the fragrant brew into delicate porcelain cups as Alara settled nervously into the chair across from her. "My dear Alara," Celeste began, her voice as soothing as the gentle streams that meandered through Elysium. "Marriage is a beautiful journey, filled with love, learning, and sometimes challenges. But remember, you are not alone in this." This was the beginning of a nurturing relationship between the two women, one that flourished amidst mutual respect and understanding. As days turned into weeks, Alara found solace in Celeste's wisdom. They often spent afternoons in the garden, tending to rows of vibrant flowers and sharing stories of their lives. The elders in Elysium often remarked on how the dynamics between a mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law could shape the entire family's well-being. A harmonious bond between them was not only beneficial, but essential for maintaining peace and happiness. Alara soon learned that the essence of a harmonious relationship with her mother-in-law lay in mutual respect. Celeste, in turn, encouraged Alara to cultivate her own identity within the household, to blend traditions with new ideas, and to embrace both the old and the new. Their relationship was not without its challenges. There were moments of tension, subtle differences in opinion, which, in another environment, could have sown seeds of discontent. However, both women were committed to overcoming these moments with patience and communication. They understood that their bond was a tapestry being woven, each interaction a thread adding to its beauty. As time passed, the other women in the village often looked to Alara and Celeste as an example of how a healthy relationship between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law could thrive. They became a source of inspiration, their bond a testament to the idea that with love and understanding, even the most intricate of relationships could flourish into something extraordinarily beautiful. Years went by, and Alara herself became a mother to a bright-eyed daughter named Lyra. Celeste became not only a cherished mother-in-law but a beloved grandmother, her role within the family evolving yet again. The village of Elysium continued to celebrate the vital roles that mothers-in-law played in their lives, understanding that these women were not merely parents by marriage, but instrumental figures in weaving the complex yet wonderful tapestry of family life. With each generation, the narrative continued, the stories of love, respect, and shared wisdom passed down like precious heirlooms. And so, the peaceful village of Elysium stood as a testament to the enduring beauty of harmonious familial bonds, a perfect tale to lull one gently to sleep. In the annals of history, the weight of family lineage and fertility often pressed heavily upon the shoulders of brides. The societal pressure to produce heirs was not merely a family affair, but a cultural expectation deeply rooted in the preservation of heritage. This narrative thread weaves itself peacefully through generations, presenting itself in the tapestries of kingdoms and quiet homes alike, where the continuation of lineage was held sacred. For centuries, across diverse cultures and histories, fertility was often seen as a crowning virtue for women, epitomizing both personal and familial fulfillment. Brides entered matrimony not only as partners to their husbands, but as vessels of legacy. In a world where continuity of lineage was paramount, the absence of children was often cause for societal concern, placing immense strain on the women of the household. In the tranquil rhythm of bygone days, life in small villages or sprawling estates shared a common element: the expectation for the bride to bear children. The woman, upon marriage, was seen as a bridge between the past and future, a living promise of continuity. Her role, though peaceful in nature, carried with it the quiet weight of future generations. The stories that echo softly through time tell of families attuned to the cycles of planting and harvest, where the rhythm of human fertility mirrored the natural world. Within these homes, the pressure was implicit, peaceful yet palpable, as the birth of a child symbolized the flourishing of the family line. Because of this, many cultures held ceremonies and rituals celebrating fertility, honoring it as an auspicious blessing. These practices were rooted in the hope that fertility would grant peace and prosperity to the household, and by extension, to the society at large. In the tranquil settings of history, where peace was found in the harmonies of nature, the expectation for a bride to provide heirs was pervasive. It was a gentle but firm reminder that for many families, a future was seen primarily through the eyes of their descendants. Though not openly confrontational, the societal obsession with fertility remained a steadfast undercurrent shaping the lives of generations. Thus, from the quiet corridors of ancient estates to the simple dwellings of rural villages, the story of fertility and expectations continues to weave its gentle path through history. The peaceful lull of time carries forward these narratives, whispering through the ages about the timeless nature of family and lineage. In the quiet and dimly lit chambers of ancient history, we find ourselves peering into a time where medical knowledge was both rudimentary and steeped in misconception. This narrative, peaceful and fitting for inducing a gentle slumber, unfolds in a time when the understanding of human anatomy was in its infancy, and the complexities of women's health were often shrouded in myth and superstition. The ancient communities, be they in the early Greek civilizations, amidst the pyramids of Egypt, or in the sprawling landscapes of Mesopotamia, relied heavily on a blend of primitive medicine and magic. Ailing individuals, particularly women, were often at the mercy of what can only be described as educated guesses, fueled by a mingling of observation, religious belief, and guesswork. Women's health, marred by misconceptions, stood at the crossroads of evolving medical practices and cultural narratives. The female body, with its mysterious cycles and miraculous ability to give life, was viewed with equal parts reverence and suspicion. Menstruation was one such mystery, often shrouded in fear and spiritual taboo. Ancient texts reveal that many civilizations considered menstruating women as untouchable, veiling them in rituals designed to protect the community and themselves from perceived impurity. In ancient Greece, the myth of the wandering womb took hold, causing a strange and unfounded anxiety among women and their families. This belief asserted that a woman's womb could dislodge and migrate through her body, causing a variety of ailments, from headaches to melancholy. Remedies included an assortment of odd prescriptions, such as scented treatments aimed at enticing the uterus back to its rightful place. The Egyptians, known for their remarkable advancements, still intertwined their medical practices with the religious rituals of the time. Women experiencing childbirth were often accompanied by chants, incantations, and statues of Tauret, the mother goddess worshipped to protect women and their children through pregnancy and delivery. Even the medical papyri of the time, which display an impressive grasp of observations, lean heavily on these spiritual interventions. As time moved on, the great Roman Empire emerged and brought with it both advancement and persistent misconceptions in the medical field. Galen, whose influence would extend far into the medieval world, made strides in anatomical knowledge, yet even his understandings were limited by the lack of true scientific method and understanding of female physiology. The Middle Ages brought a mix of superstition and slow advancement. Women found themselves at the center of multifaceted misconceptions, often blamed for unexplained diseases or unlucky outcomes in birth. The Church dominated health services, with monasteries and convents serving as centers of healing, yet often shunning the deeper investigation of the female body. Women healers, sometimes referred to as wise women, midwives, or in darker attributions, witches, often possessed the most knowledge of herbal medicine and childbirth practices, but were frequently overlooked and sometimes persecuted. Pioneering women like Trotula of Salerno began to shape a changing narrative. Trotula, thought to be one of the earliest known female physicians, or a collective name for women in medicine, offered one of the earliest writings dedicated to the ailments experienced by women, pregnant or otherwise. Yet, her works were often clouded by the struggle between growing scientific inquiry and lingering superstitions. Misunderstandings about female anatomy continued to persist throughout the Renaissance. Even with the advent of scientific exploration and the gradual dismantling of previous misconceptions, many doctors still harbored unfounded beliefs about the female body. Leonardo da Vinci's anatomical sketches of the female form, while groundbreaking, highlight how far the journey would be to dispel long-standing myths. As peaceful and inevitable as the flow of time, knowledge gradually expanded the horizons of understanding, aided by voices of reason, courage, and innovation. The works of William Harvey, who discovered the circulatory system, and the tireless pursuits of countless midwives and female practitioners slowly began to change the treatment and perception of women's health. Yet, it was not until the Enlightenment and beyond that a more scientific approach to medicine began to overshadow the shadows of misconception. As the pages of history turned, we come to appreciate the peace that knowledge brings, trusting that it is not simply the end of myths that allow us to rest, but the ongoing pursuit of truth. The story of medicine, and particularly the understanding of women's health, reminds us of the path walked by countless individuals who sought to replace fiction with fact and fear with understanding. It is a testament to human persistence in the face of ignorance, a march towards the dawn that comes after each peaceful night. Child brides are a haunting reminder of how cultural traditions and systemic inequalities can intertwine, forcing young girls into a world they are ill prepared to navigate. Throughout history and across the globe, child marriage has been a practice that predicates upon deeply rooted cultural norms, gender inequality, and economic necessity. Despite modern advancements and growing advocacy for human rights, this practice continues to thrive in some regions, shrouded in secrecy, perpetuated by poverty, and justified under the guise of tradition. The perilous journey of child brides begins the day they are married off. Most of these girls, some as young as 9 or 10, are taken from their familiar surroundings, where they should have been attending school, playing with friends, and growing in a nurturing environment, and thrust into the adult world of domestic apathy and marital expectations. They are often married to much older men, strangers whose lives and intentions remain mysterious to them. Once married, the challenges and adversities multiply. These young brides face immense pressure to fulfill their social obligations, which include domestic responsibilities and, tragically, childbirth. Their bodies are not ready for the strains of pregnancy and bearing children, leading to severe health complications. Maternal mortality rates are substantially higher among adolescent mothers, and their infants also face a greater risk of mortality. The young bride's education usually ceases, as they are expected to manage households or prioritize family needs over personal development. This deprivation of education perpetuates the cycle of poverty and subordination. Without education, these girls remain unempowered, devoid of the skills or knowledge to challenge their circumstances or take control of their destinies. Moreover, these marriages often lead to psychological trauma. The abrupt transition from child to wife, thrust into the circle of abuse, exploitation, and severe restrictions on personal freedom, results in substantial emotional distress. The isolation from family and friends, coupled with potential abuse from partners or in-laws, leaves deep and lasting scars. Many child brides suffer from depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, underscoring the invisible yet profound impact of these forced unions. In cases where the young brides attempt to escape or resist, they face societal backlash, often leading to stigma or disownement by their own families. Some are fortunate to find support groups and organizations advocating for women's rights, which offer refuge and a second chance. However, such opportunities are sparse and accessible only to a fraction of child brides, predominantly those in more urban settings. The harrowing tales of child brides are not confined to one corner of the globe, but resonate universally. Whether it's the hills of rural Nepal, the vast rural landscapes of sub-Saharan Africa, or within the bustling outskirts of Indian cities, the threads of these stories interweave a universal tragedy, one of lost childhoods, stolen opportunities, and the silent screams of young girls forced to grow up too fast. Yet, there is hope. Global attention to the plight of child brides is increasing, with international organizations and human rights advocates pushing for systemic changes. Legislative measures are being pursued in various countries to raise the legal age of marriage and enforce existing laws robustly. Local communities are stepping forward, trying to change mindsets through education and empowerment programs, aimed at girls and their families, enlightening them about the detrimental consequences of child marriage. Stories of resilience also emerge from the ashes of this peril, as former child brides rise to advocate for change. These courageous women turn their traumatic experiences into fiery calls for action, becoming powerful voices against child marriage and advocating for the rights of girls to choose their futures. Celebrated figures such as Malala Yousafzai have drawn significant global attention to the issue, bringing it into international discourse and leveraging it to influence policy changes. Grassroots movements led by survivors themselves are paving the way forward, demonstrating that when given the platform and opportunity, young women can and will rise, sparking transformative change in their communities. The history of child brides is one marred with suffering, but also resilience. Understanding their perilous journey provides insight into the broader struggles of gender inequality and human rights infractions. It's a narrative of transformation, showcasing that, though the road is fraught with obstacles, the fight to end child marriages continues to gain momentum. Every step taken is a testament to the strength of those who were once victims and are now victors, rewriting history on their terms and heralding a new era where saving our daughters becomes a shared global commitment. In quiet villages across the gentle hills of what is now Eastern Europe, families carried out rituals of protection, age-old traditions meant to ensure the success and happiness of a marriage. These rituals, peaceful in nature, spoke of love and hope, and were deeply entrenched in the belief system of the community. In the early morning light, after the mist had lifted but before the sun had fully risen, families would gather in their kitchens. The smell of freshly baked bread lingered in the air. Each family had its own stories and customs, passed down through generations, rooted in the belief that these practices would safeguard the union of their loved ones. The first steps of these rituals often involved the gathering of family members from near and far. Extended families would congregate, creating a sense of community and unity. It was a time for storytelling, for sharing tales of ancestors who had found happiness and security in their own marriages. There was a palpable serenity about these gatherings, as if time itself paused to honor the occasion. As dusk approached, families would proceed to the hearth, a central place in the home representing warmth and stability. A small fire would be kindled, and the oldest member of the family would tell stories of love, loyalty, and the importance of togetherness. This act symbolized the lighting of a path the couple would walk together. Items imbued with familial history would be offered as gifts to the couple, each gift carefully chosen to symbolize different aspects of a successful marriage. A beautifully woven blanket, representing warmth and comfort. A wooden carving of two birds, signifying partnership and mutual support. These items were believed to carry the protection bestowed upon them by past generations. Throughout these ceremonies, gentle songs were sung, lullabies that had been sung to children for centuries, adapted into melodies for these occasions. The soft cadence of the music was said to ward off negative influences and keep the newlyweds safe from harm. One of the highlights of these ritualistic gatherings was the sharing of a meal. Freshly baked bread, honey, and fruits gathered from the family's gardens would be laid out. The couple, sitting together, would partake in this feast with their families, a gesture underscoring abundance, nourishment, and the blessings of both nature and community. As night embraced the village, a final gesture of protection would be performed. Families would go outside, and in a circle around the home, they would each light a small lantern. One by one, the lanterns would illuminate, casting a gentle glow around the dwelling. This ring of light was believed to guard the couple, ensuring that their home would be a bastion of peace and prosperity. The careful orchestration of these rituals reflected the deeper societal anxieties surrounding marital outcomes. In times past, when the fabric of life was interwoven with uncertainties, these traditions provided a sense of control and assurance. Families sought to weave an invisible tapestry of protection and hope around their loved ones, a safeguard against the storms that life inevitably brings. While these rituals transform over time, adjusting to the rhythms of modern life, the essence of these customs endures, a testament to the timeless nature of love, the foundational pillar upon which society rests. With every new generation, these rituals remind families that, at their core, marriage is not just a bond between two individuals, but a connection of communities and a covenant with history itself. Although the origins and exact details of these protective rituals may fade with time, their impact is undeniable. The act of coming together, of hoping collectively for the happiness of others, sows seeds of kindness and resilience that transcend time. As the night deepens and a gentle wind whispers through the trees, sleepy eyes close, comforted by the thought that somewhere, a circle of lights glows gently, protecting the dreams of the young lovers tucked safely away. Once upon a time, in the vast and culturally rich continent of Europe, there existed a multitude of marriage customs and traditions that varied widely from one region to another. These customs were deeply rooted in the history, beliefs, and social norms of each community, reflecting both the unique and shared aspects of European cultures. In the serene highlands of Scotland, weddings have long been celebrated with a blend of joyous music and deep-rooted traditions. One of the most intriguing customs is the hand-fasting ceremony, a picturesque ritual where the bride and groom's hands are tied together with a tartan cloth to symbolize their union. This binding signifies an agreement to remain faithful and serves as a preview of their lifelong journey together. The event often takes place amidst rolling hills and ancient castles, offering a tranquil setting that underscores the couple's vows. Traveling southward to the lush vineyards of France, weddings are characterized by elegance and sophistication. French nuptials are renowned for their fine cuisine and exquisite wine, reflecting the country's culinary prowess. A notable tradition is the cortege, a procession led by the bride's family from her home to the ceremony, accompanied by lively music and cheers from locals. This parade symbolizes the communal nature of marriage, highlighting the support of family and friends. Venturing east to the historic landscapes of Poland, we find weddings that are a tapestry of religious and cultural elements. Here, a traditional event known as egzepany involves the ceremonial removal of the bride's veil, symbolizing her transition from maiden to wife. This custom is often set to the backdrop of folk music and communal dances, creating a festive atmosphere that's both intimate and inclusive. Further east, in the rolling plains of Romania, marriage customs are rich with symbolism and folklore. A unique aspect is the bridal ransom, where the groom must kidnap his bride or pay a ransom to her family to symbolize his commitment. This playful exchange is accompanied by laughter and jest, offering a glimpse of the goodwill and camaraderie that underpins Romanian weddings. In the Iberian Peninsula, Spanish weddings are lavish and infused with passion. The tradition of gifting 13 gold coins to the bride, known as eras, signifies prosperity and shared wealth. This exchange underscores the couple's promise to care for one another, reflecting a deep sense of partnership. The Baltic nations, such as Estonia, offer a blend of ancient pagan rites and modern practices. One notable tradition involves the making of the bride, where friends and family assist in dressing the bride while sharing stories and offering wisdom. This gathering is not only a bonding moment, but also serves as a rite of passage into married life. While these customs highlight the cultural diversity of Europe, they also reflect common challenges faced by brides across the continent. The pressure to honor tradition while embracing modernity can be daunting. Many brides strive to strike a balance between maintaining cultural roots and expressing personal identities, a journey that involves navigating familial expectations and societal norms. Despite these challenges, the essence of European weddings remains rooted in love, family, and community. The ceremonies, whether modest or grandiose, serve as a reminder of the enduring human desire for connection and belonging. As the sun sets over Europe, casting a warm glow over its diverse landscapes, each bride stands at the beginning of a new chapter. Though their customs may differ, the shared promise of love and commitment unites them in their journey, a journey as rich and varied as the continent itself. In the end, it is this harmonious blend of tradition and personal expression that makes European weddings a beautiful tapestry of cultural heritage and human hope. The calm and peaceful nature of these traditions, devoid of conflict and filled with joy, offer a perfect lullaby for a quiet night's rest. Once upon a time, in lands and eras vastly different from today, the lives of brides were often filled with challenges that tested their inner strength and resilience. This narrative explores how these women, despite being confined within the strictures of their societies, found ways to navigate their roles with ingenuity and fortitude. The societal expectations placed upon brides throughout history were often immense. In many cultures, the primary role of a bride was seen as a means to consolidate familial alliances and secure economic stability, rather than a pursuit of personal happiness or autonomy. Despite this, many brides throughout history demonstrated remarkable resilience. Consider the ancient city of Troy, supposed by mythology and literary texts to be a place of love, war, and resilience. The Trojan women, including brides like Andromache, adapted to their constrained circumstances with quiet strength. As Troy faced external threats, these women continued to fulfill their duties, nurture their families, and maintain the fabric of their daily lives amidst chaos. While the men fought on the battlements, many brides upheld the home front, their resilience forming the unspoken backbone of their society. In medieval Europe, marriages were often arranged to secure allegiances between powerful families. Young brides were thrust into unfamiliar surroundings, where they had to learn new customs, languages, and traditions. Men were often away on campaigns or managing properties far afield, leaving the brides to oversee domestic affairs, manage households, and sometimes even defend their estates. These women adapted to their roles with remarkable resourcefulness, applying their wit and determination to influence both family and political matters. In many cases, their astuteness allowed them to wield significant power within their constrained worlds. Brides in dynastic China faced myriad expectations and lived under strict societal rules. Yet many found inventive ways to exert influence. Through mastering the art of conversational discourse, calligraphy, or poetry, they could subtly advocate for familial interests. Some became key advisors to their husbands or influential figures in their own right. These women crafted a space for themselves within the rigid hierarchy, utilizing quiet diplomacy and astute observation. In African societies, where community often played a vital role, brides were deeply involved in the communal socio-economic network. Even within the confines of patriarchal structures, they contributed to and often spearheaded agricultural production, local trade, and community dialogue. These contributions ensured the sustainability and growth of their communities, reaffirming their essential role amid traditional expectations. In the Americas, both before and after European colonization, indigenous brides exhibited resilience by continuing their cultural practices and preserving traditional knowledge despite external pressures to conform. In many indigenous cultures, the role of women was integral to maintaining societal stability, and brides were often key participants in cultural and spiritual activities. Throughout history, the resilience of brides is deeply woven into the fabric of societies across continents. Whether through subtle influence, direct management, or steadfast perseverance, the ingenious ways in which these women navigated their constrained worlds demonstrate a narrative not solely of endurance, but of quiet yet profound strength. This resilience and adaptability, often going unnoticed in the grand historical narratives dominated by battles and treaties, form a peaceful backdrop perfect for contemplation or a gentle night's reflection. These stories, transcending time and geography, provide an introspective view into the hidden resilience of brides, reminding us of their quiet yet indomitable spirit. The evolution of wedding ceremonies during the medieval period offers a fascinating glimpse into how cultural, religious, and social factors intertwine to shape one of humanity's most enduring traditions. In the early medieval era, weddings were often more practical arrangements than the romantic unions celebrated today. They were considered vital alliances between families, aimed at securing political ties, economic stability, or social status. During this time, the Church's influence grew significantly, and by the 12th century, the ecclesiastical framework started to impact wedding ceremonies. The Catholic Church declared marriage a sacrament, imbuing it with a sense of divine importance. This shift meant that many couples sought the Church's blessing, which led to the inclusion of religious vows in the ceremony. The emphasis on vows led to the development of more structured ceremonies, often held at the church's doorstep before moving inside to attend Mass. This tradition of the church ceremony became a cornerstone of medieval weddings. Social norms and expectations also evolved as community involvement became crucial. Villagers often attended the ceremonies, turning them into community events. The introduction of banns, a public announcement of a couple's intent to marry, helped ensure marriages were acceptable within the community, reinforcing social bonds. In this period, the attire and symbols began to assume recognizable forms. Wealthier brides wore elaborate gowns, often featuring rich fabrics like silk, while grooms donned their best attire as symbols of status and respectability. Wedding rings, which became increasingly popular, represented a physical embodiment of the vows exchanged. Feasts were elaborate affairs. Noble families hosted grand banquets, showcasing their wealth and influence. For commoners, these gatherings were simpler, but no less joyful, with music, dance, and merry-making central to the celebration, securing the participation and approval of their community. As medieval society progressed, customs varied greatly across regions, influenced by local traditions, feudal obligations, and economic circumstances. In some areas, unique rituals emerged, such as the binding of hands, known as handfasting, symbolic of uniting two lives. These variations demonstrate how weddings became a tapestry of cultural expression during this era. The evolution of wedding ceremonies in the medieval period reflects a time of increasing complexity in societal structures and personal relationships. This transformation shows how evolving cultural, religious, and social influences shaped marital unions, laying the foundation for many wedding traditions still observed today. As the dust of the medieval era settled, the solemnity and celebration of marriage held steadfast as a timeless rite of passage, continuing to evolve and adapt with each passing era. In the dimly lit corridors of time, the concept of love and marriage has often danced like a flickering candle flame, sometimes vivid and bright, at other times faint and elusive. In a world where marriages were historically arranged for practical and strategic purposes, the notion of marrying for love was once considered as radical as it was rare. Throughout history, marriage served as a contract negotiated on the grounds of alliances, property exchanges, and social status. Love, as a basis for such unions, was often a secondary consideration, if considered at all. Yet, despite these norms, whispers of love and passion have persisted throughout the ages, mingling with the formalities like a soft melody beneath a rigid symphony. The concept of love matches, a union forged on mutual affection and attraction, has often been an elusive dream painted in romantic hues. These few instances where love and marriage did intertwine provide fascinating insights into the transformative power of affection. In ancient societies, love was frequently idealized in literature and art, giving credence to its existence even in societies that officially shunned it as a foundation for marriage. Think of the Persian poet Rumi, whose verses entwined love with both spiritual and earthly connections. Such expressions of passion presented love as a powerful force capable of transcending societal norms. In medieval Europe, troubadours and poets sang of courtly love, a concept where noble knights would admire and perform chivalrous acts for ladies far above their station. Although these relationships were idealized and non-physical, they laid the groundwork for the romantic ideals that would eventually filter into the institution of marriage. These ideas were further developed during the Renaissance, a period of reawakening where art and intellect flourished in tandem. The works of Shakespeare, particularly plays such as Romeo and Juliet, presented deep, heartfelt connections as worthy pursuits, even when societal standards suggested otherwise. In more recent history, the concept of love marriages began to gain acceptance, although still fraught with challenges. Social disapproval, familial obligations, and societal norms often acted as barriers to such unions. Yet, the stories of individuals who challenged these conventions continue to inspire. One such tale is that of the 19th century pioneers, fighting for the right to marry for love rather than obligation. These were the times when love began to permeate the social consciousness as an essential component of a happy life. Even as love matches became more accepted, they often met with skepticism. Love was viewed as fickle, an emotion capable of fading over time, raising doubts about its suitability as a foundation for marriage. Questions were posed about ephemeral passion versus enduring companionship. But slowly, love marriages began to prove their worth. The effects were transformative. As couples across the world sought to marry for love, they championed individual choice and autonomy. This shift didn't only affect romantic relationships, it extended into the way people perceived themselves and their choices. Marriage became, for many, less of a necessity and more of an expression of mutual respect and companionship. In modern times, the love match is widely celebrated, Yet the journey to this acceptance tells a tale of determined individuals challenging the status quo for the sake of something believed to be greater than convention, be it love or personal freedom. The courts and halls' history are rich with tales of those who found beauty and connection in places thought impossible by their contemporaries. These stories reverberate through time, whispering to us that though elusive at times, love remains a powerful force, ever hopeful and poignant, in the tapestry of marriage. History, as we pull it close like a blanket, is full of such stories, and they bring a gentle peace, a perfect accompaniment for restful sleep. In a world where marriages were often forged out of necessity, rather than love or choice, the pathway for a bride seeking an annulment or escape was fraught with challenges and societal implications. This chapter delves into the nuanced tapestry of matrimonial history, exploring how these women navigated a society that offered little recourse. Marriages, in many historical contexts, served as alliances between families or as strategic decisions made for social, political, or economic gain. The sacrament of marriage was viewed as inviolable, a union sealed in the eyes of society and oftentimes divinity. However, beneath this veneer of permanence and sanctity lay the quiet stories of those who sought relief from unwanted bonds. For those few who dared to seek annulments, the reasons had to be compelling and substantiated. Common ground for annulment claims included evidence of fraud, impotence, consanguinity, bigamy, or force. Yet, even with such reasons, the process was lengthy and astronomically expensive, accessible mainly to the wealthy or influential. Imagine Lady Eleanor, a young woman of noble birth whose heart longed for quieter days in the countryside rather than the bustling, opulent halls of her husband's estate. She found herself in a marriage cold and loveless, orchestrated not for mutual affection but for consolidating power. Despite seemingly insurmountable odds, Lady Eleanor gathered evidence of her husband's infidelity, presenting her case to the ecclesiastical courts with hopes of reclaiming her autonomy. Yet, not all brides had the means or fortitude for such endeavors. Many found themselves turning to more discreet and personal means of escape. Some fled under the cover of night, seeking refuge in monasteries who would, at times, find ways to protect these runaway brides, allowing them to start anew under the guise of religious commitment. Living on the margins, women like Margaret, whose life in the village was a tale not unlike hundreds of others, found solace and covert support within tightly knit communities. When her husband, a brusque and unforgiving man, joined a campaign abroad, Margaret saw her chance. Her network of friends and kin rallied around her quietly, facilitating her disappearance into the countryside where she was no longer Margaret the wife, but a new person entirely, free yet always cautious. For others still, the path to freedom was left in the hands of fate. Widows like Agatha, who never thought she would find herself free at such a young age, nursed her ailing husband until his final days, only to emerge from her mourning as a woman reborn, a matriarch with newfound control over her life. The stories of annulments and escapes were whispers of dissent in a choir of matrimonial harmony. These women, through various means, sought to redefine their narratives in societies where their voices were often stifled. Where the path to annulment was a legal labyrinth fraught with pitfalls and perils, escape required connections, bravery, and a dash of good fortune. Through their resilience, they wove a tapestry of quiet rebellion, questioning the very structures that sought to bind them. In doing so, they contributed to the slow but inevitable shift towards recognizing a woman's right to choose her path, whether within the bounds of matrimony or beyond it. These anecdotes of history, though serene and reflective, remind us of the enduring spirit that prompted change even in the most seemingly immovable institutions. They serve not only as tales of seeking freedom, but as whispers of resilience lulling us to rest with the reassurance that the fight for autonomy is as timeless as it is transformative. Interfaith marriages have woven themselves into the fabric of society, with couples often building bridges over the colorful and diverse plane of religious beliefs. It is a tale as old as time itself, where unity in diversity is honored, yet not without challenges that accompany this vibrant tapestry. Imagine a calm, serene setting in the gentle glow of twilight, where stories of love and life have been shared across millennia. This tale invites you to a journey that offers understanding and peace, lulling you into a gentle slumber. In the heart of a quaint village wrapped in the gentle embrace of rolling hills, lived Anna and Amir, a couple embracing interfaith love. Their union was a testament to the resilience and beauty of love that defies boundaries. Anna, with roots deeply grounded in Christianity, came from a family that cherished Sunday services and Christmas gatherings steeped in warmth and tradition. Amir, devoted to Islam, hailed from a lineage that celebrated Ramadan with reverence and aid with jubilant festivities. Their paths first crossed at a blossoming university campus, nestled in a town known for its cultures blending seamlessly like a beautiful mosaic. Amid lectures on philosophy and strolls under ancient oak trees, Anna and Amir found solace in one another's company. Their love story, while special and unique, shared the common thread of forging a connection beyond religious confines. Yet, as their relationship deepened, they encountered the delicate dance between honoring their traditions and nurturing their love. Their love story gently unfolded in conversations laced with the scent of brewing chai and kizuf rosemary bread baking in the oven. They spent evenings exploring each other's faiths, attending church services and mosque prayers, finding joy in mutual respect and curiosity. Anna learned to navigate the rhythm of Amir's world during Ramadan, waking up before dawn to prepare suhoor. Similarly, Amir immersed himself in the warmth of Christmas, joining carol services and savoring roasted feasts. The challenges they encountered were not storms, but gentle breezes urging the leaves of their life's tree to sway delicately. Everyone around them had something to offer, be it advice or cautionary tales. Friends provided them with comforting words akin to a soft blanket on a cold winter's night, supporting their quest to understand and compromise. Family gatherings were sometimes orchestrated like harmonious symphonies. Anna's family, in their respect, filled the Easter table with halal options, while being mindful of not crossing boundaries when it came to Amir's dietary preferences. Amir's family opened their hearts during family iftars by serving traditional dishes that reflected Anna's background, acknowledging her presence with warmth and inclusion. Their journey was marked by many listening moments, where they would wrap themselves in each other's perspectives, assuring fears while embracing each other's differences, with a love as gentle and nurturing as a lullaby. They crafted their own traditions like lighting candles every Friday evening, offering prayers in both faiths. Marriage counseling, with a focus on interfaith harmony, enveloped them like a cocoon, guiding them toward a future built on empathy, understanding, and shared values. The community, too, was a saga of learning and acceptance. Their shared language was one built on love and joy, finding its way through potlucks, community events, and open dialogues. Their friends and neighbors created an atmosphere of inclusion, where differences were celebrated as a rich tapestry of shared human experience. In their quietly shaded garden, under the moon's gentle gaze, Anna and Amir would reflect on their journey, each challenge met with the soft murmur of understanding and acceptance. Their garden, much like their life together, bloomed with a multitude of colors, symbolizing the complex and exquisite beauty of their journey. Their narrative progressed, a testament to how love sees no barriers, but finds ways to harmonize differences into a peaceful, gentle lull. They entwined their lives with shared dreams, nurturing seeds of hope for their children to one day grow within a world where love transcends all. Thus, their interfaith marriage blossomed not just as a union of two, but as a garden that inspired others to believe in the power of love. A story wrapped in the warmth of understanding, it invites tranquility and peace, lulling readers into a serene slumber nestled in the harmony of unity and diversity. As you travel into the silent embrace of night's gentle arms, may this story provide the meditative calm and reassurance that, at the heart of all divisions, love finds its gentle way. In a quaint and serene village nestled in the lush, rolling hills of the English countryside during the 18th century, life ambled along in a methodical and peaceful rhythm. Here, traditions were cherished like heirlooms, passed down from generation to generation, forming the very fabric of village life. One particularly interesting custom involved the preparation and education of young brides, to be for their forthcoming roles as wives and, eventually, mothers. Even before a girl reached a marriageable age, roughly around 16 or 17 at the time, she would be slowly guided into the rigors of domestic life. This education began in the home, where mothers imparted the knowledge and skills necessary for running a household. Lessons in cooking, sewing, and weaving were as vital as they were practical, while daughters observed and assisted their mothers in the plantation gardens, in the kitchens, and at the looms. The curriculum was informal but rigorous. A typical day might begin with an early morning spent learning to bake bread or prepare meals from scratch, then move on to sewing or embroidery. Both skills were not merely about practicality, but also deeply intertwined with notions of femininity and decorum. Indeed, a well-embroidered tablecloth or a perfectly stitched piece of clothing was as much a testament to a woman's character and worth as her demeanor or family connections. In the afternoons, young women might receive lessons in music or dance, forms of entertainment that were considered both genteel and appropriate for a woman of marriageable age. These activities were not purely recreational. They also provided social settings where young women could meet prospective suitors or strengthen alliances between families. A graceful dancer or a skilled pianist was often perceived as an ideal catch for eligible bachelors of the time. Brides were also taught the art of conversation, an understated yet crucial skill that would serve them well in managing not just their households, but also social interactions during notable gatherings or village events. Troubled marriages could ensue if a woman was not equipped to hold her husband's interest or assume a competent role as hostess. Therefore, mothers would often emphasize tact, wit, and the art of subtle persuasion. Religious education was another cornerstone of bridal preparation. Many young women in the village attended Sunday schools, where they learned scripture and hymns, instilling in them moral values and the ethical standards expected of them in their forthcoming roles. The parish priest would often speak fondly of the virtues of patience, humility, and charity, championing these as the keys to a harmonious marriage. The cornerstone of wisdom imparted to every bride was the biblical principle of being a good wife, not just in deeds, but in unwavering spiritual devotion. However, this education was not without its limitations. While practical household skills and morality were emphasized, young brides were often left unprepared for the emotional complexities and potential struggles of marriage. The idyllic vision of matrimonial life, painted vividly in stories and reinforced by family traditions, often left little room for the realistic challenges couples faced. Issues like emotional dynamics, mutual respect in marriage, and personal identity outside of husband and household were seldom addressed. As peaceful a place as this village was, rumors and whispers of mismatched unions and unhappy lives sometimes haunted the cobblestone paths. A bride equipped with practical domestic skills might still feel isolated if she had not been introduced to the nuances of partnership and mutual understanding. Many learned to navigate these waters through trial and error, developing resilience and adaptability on their own terms, and often only with age and experience. With the passage of time, as travel and trade introduced new ideas and movements into the village, the education of young brides gradually began to evolve. Exposure to literature and, later, formal education planted seeds for change in attitudes towards women's roles within marriage. Progressive families slowly adopted broader educational practices, ones that included reading, writing, and more emphasis on personal development, paving the way for future generations to explore their spousal roles with a little more preparedness. In the stillness of history, this village's brides were emblematic of an era where education was a weaving of life skills around a vision of marital happiness. Yet, the gentle rhythm of those who prepared them echoes as a reminder that even in peaceful, perfect times, growth is both a quiet undercurrent and a force for change in the journey of life. Matchmakers and brokers have played a substantial role in the institution of marriage for centuries, shaping the destinies of many brides and the futures of families. Their influence varies across cultures and time periods, but their fundamental aim has often remained the same: to facilitate connections that might otherwise have remained unformed. Historically, marriage was not merely a personal or romantic union, it was a social contract of considerable importance. Families sought alliances for mutual benefit, whether for social standing, economic gain, or the merging of resources. In many societies, women, especially those of marriageable age, found themselves at the center of these arrangements, their fates often resting in the hands of intermediaries skilled in negotiation and diplomacy. The role of matchmakers dates back thousands of years. In ancient China, for instance, the meipo, or matchmaker, was an essential part of society. The meipo held a respected position, and her recommendations carried great weight. Such intermediaries were not only versed in the complexities of familial expectations, but also in reading the metaphysical signs that indicated a good match. Considerations such as compatible birth signs and family harmony were paramount. This was a period where marriage was seen as less about individual agency and more about ensuring continuity and harmony within the family structure. In many parts of Europe during the Middle Ages, marriage often served as a strategic alliance between families. In this context, the matchmaker, who might be a member of the clergy, a friend, or a dedicated professional, played a crucial role in brokering these unions. The institution of marriage was closely tied to economic considerations, and dowries were meticulously arranged with infinite care and economic foresight. The dowry could influence a match tremendously, effectively setting the playing field for what was considered a good match. The Jewish tradition also places significant historical emphasis on matchmakers. Known as shidchanim, they emerged as essential figures in communities, ensuring matches were not only socially and economically advantageous, but also aligned with religious and cultural values. The tales of matchmakers finding the perfect matches are threaded throughout Jewish folklore and are often depicted in literature and plays, highlighting both the challenges and the successes in uniting couples. Moving into the 19th and early 20th centuries, as Western societies began to place more emphasis on love as a basis for marriage, the role of the matchmaker, and subsequently brokers, adapted. While the need for arranged marriages decreased in some places due to changing societal norms, in others it persisted. For instance, there was a rise in matrimonial services, effectively matchmaking agencies, that began to surface in cities across Europe and America, promising to introduce individuals to potential partners where shared interests and compatibility could be assessed in a more modern context. Brokers and matchmakers have been adept at navigating and adapting to these shifts. They transitioned from a predominantly private and familial function to more formalized services that offered introductions between potential brides and grooms, curated through meticulously compiled personal details and even photographs, as technological advancements allowed something akin to our modern-day online dating profiles. In contemporary times, the tradition of matchmaking in some Asian and Middle Eastern cultures remains vibrant, where modern technology meets timeless practice. Matchmakers today might use detailed databases and compatibility software, functioning not dissimilar to an algorithmic approach, but they continue to provide the culturally revered personal touch. Their role, however, is not just to bring people together, but also to mediate between the expectations and aspirations of families, providing counsel and assurance throughout the process. Despite the many cultural contexts and eras, common threads persist. Matchmakers and brokers have served as vital conduits in connecting lives, often working to dispel family disputes, enhance communal ties, and ensure societal norms and restrictions are respected, all while holding the delicate task of aligning the traditional with the personal and the old with the new. Their work, deeply rooted in history, continues to be an integral part of societies across the world, standing as a testament to the enduring complexity and multifaceted nature of arranging marriages. Marriages across borders have long held a place of significance in human history, providing a framework for peaceful relations and diplomatic alliances. These unions offer a lens through which to view the evolving landscape of political and cultural interactions, capturing both the challenges and the opportunities inherent in joining diverse communities. Often representations of strategic acumen, cross-border marriages have served as symbols of treaties and agreements, their personal narratives woven into the broader fabric of international relations. Consider the era of the Middle Ages, when European nobility relied heavily on marital alliances to secure peace and prosperity among kingdoms. Princes and princesses were often wed not merely for love, but as pawns in a great game of diplomacy. A marriage treaty between two ruling houses could mean the end of conflicts, the promise of shared resources, and the strengthening of ties that might otherwise have been fraught with tension and hostility. For instance, the marriage of Eleanor of Aquitaine to King Louis XIII of France in the 12th century, and later to King Henry VI of England, exemplifies the pivotal role of matrimonial diplomacy. Her unions connected powerful realms, significantly affecting the political landscapes of both France and England. One should also not overlook the cultural exchanges facilitated by these international marriages. Through the marriage of Catherine of Aragon to England's Henry VI, Spanish customs and influences began to permeate the English court, enriching it with new artistic expressions and culinary practices. These marriages acted as conduits for cross-cultural understanding, allowing peoples from different backgrounds to appreciate diverse customs and traditions. Nevertheless, these unions were not without their challenges. Language barriers, cultural misunderstandings, and varying expectations often posed significant obstacles to the success of cross-border marriages. Diplomatic unions were fraught with the potential for misinterpretation or dissatisfaction, particularly when political aims overshadowed the individual happiness of the bride and groom. The human element of these alliances could not always withstand the pressures imposed by the diplomatic obligations surrounding them. Moreover, such marriages were frequently leveraged as devices for dominance and control. The bride, often seen as a vessel of peace, was sometimes caught in the web of power struggles. Her personal autonomy was typically eclipsed by the pressing concerns of the state, and she was expected to navigate her role with dexterity to maintain the alliance she represented. In this light, cross-border marriages appear not just as symbols of unity, but also as reflections of the complex interplay between personal sacrifice and national interest. In certain instances, the hope that accompanied these marriages was belied by subsequent breakdowns in alliances or miscommunications between nations. Although the marriage may have signaled an initial truce, maintaining that peace required ongoing diplomacy beyond the wedding ceremony, the marriage of Philip II of Spain and Mary I of England, though rooted in shared Catholic faith and political alignment, witnessed tensions that could not be entirely mitigated by their union. Ultimately, the dynamics of power politics often took precedence, and the success of these cross-border marriages depended on a continual dialogue between participating nations. Yet, despite these challenges, cross-border marriages have continually reaffirmed their diplomatic significance. They remain potent expressions of hope, embodying the potential for peace and collaboration in a world often divided by conflict. Looking towards the future, modern societies continue to draw inspiration from these historical unions, seeking to harness their lessons in fostering global harmony. As such, marriages across borders serve not only as artifacts of historical diplomacy, but as timeless reminders of humanity's enduring pursuit of connection and understanding. For those interested in peaceful lull, the chronicles of these matrimonial alliances across history offer a serene and contemplative narrative. They invite reflection on the personal stories that help shape our world, encouraging a gentle transition into rest and sleep. In the silent echoes of these unions, one finds the quiet promise of peace and the hopeful whispers of unity that resonate beyond the ages. In ancient societies, marriage has often been viewed through two primary lenses, as a sacred union and as a secular contract. Across time, these dual roles have crafted a tapestry where individuals, particularly brides, navigate the complex interplay between religious traditions and societal expectations. In this exploration of marriage, we delve into how these roles have been harmoniously intertwined and sometimes conflicted, providing a peaceful yet fascinating insight into this age-old institution. For millennia, marriage has held a central place in the tapestry of human society. It was a cornerstone that served not only as a bond between individuals, but as the bedrock for forming alliances, producing heirs, and fostering community ties. The dual roles of marriage, both sacred and secular, reflect the layers of meaning attributed to this profound institution. Firstly, on the sacred aspect, throughout various civilizations, marriage has often been deemed a holy and divine union. In ancient Mesopotamia, the marriage ceremony was a religious affair, blessed by deities who were believed to oversee the sanctity of the matrimonial bond. The rites performed in their temples imbued marriages with divine significance, intertwining the sacred with everyday life. Similarly, in ancient Egypt, marriage was seen as essential not only for personal happiness, but also for cosmic order. The bonds formed in this life were believed to extend into the afterlife, implying a depth of commitment that transcended mortal existence. The gods themselves, such as Osiris and Isis, were seen as ideal couples providing celestial models for earthly unions. In contrast, marriage has also been a key secular component of societal frameworks, acting as a contract with legal and economic facets. dowries, inheritance laws, and the social standing of families all played significant roles in how marriages were contracted. In many cultures, such as in ancient Rome, marriage contracts were meticulously detailed, outlining the rights and duties of both parties and expectations of property and legacy. Girls and women, as brides, have navigated these sacred and secular waters with unique grace and adaptability. In societies where their personal agency was limited, becoming a bride was often a pivotal moment, a bridge between childhood and womanhood, individual and collective identity. The skills required to maneuver these waters were honed through cultural and familial teachings passed down through the generations. Historically, the balancing act between these dual aspects of marriage has not always been seamless. Sacred vows could, at times, stand in tension with secular obligations, creating complex layers within domestic life. The expectations placed upon brides were immense, ranging from the roles of spiritual guide to family negotiator, deftly managing both personal aspirations and family duties. However, the dual nature of marriage has also allowed for significant positive advancements in women's roles throughout history. Brides often became the central figure in the household, the linchpin in creating and maintaining domestic harmony. Through their influence, the historical narratives have shown glimpses of women wielding social power behind the scenes, subtly influencing community dynamics. Throughout different eras and cultures, the narratives of marriage artfully demonstrate the seamless fusion of spiritual and mundane. In medieval Europe, for instance, marriage was tightly intertwined with religious doctrine. The Church held immense sway over the marital process, sanctifying unions and reinforcing the sacred nature of the wedlock. Yet marriages were also power plays among the nobility, often arranged to forge alliances, secure territories, and assure political stability. Despite these formally arranged unions, there were noteworthy cases of women asserting their voices and challenging norms. These instances, while rare, showcased the potential agency of brides who deftly navigated the confines of their roles, influencing decisions both sacred and secular. Another exemplary narrative emerges from China, where Confucian ideals emphasized filial piety and the continuation of familial lines through marriage. Ritual practices solidified the sacred bond between ancestors and descendants, while the arranged marriage system ensured that these unions met the necessary economic and social expectations of respective families. In regions like Southeast Asia, matrilineal societies had a different approach to marriage. Brides played leading roles in maintaining familial property through the mother's line, offering a different perspective on the influence and legacy of women within the household. Here, marriage was less about transferring wealth and more about sustaining cyclical family dynamics. Within Native American cultures, marriage ceremonies reflected the spiritual world, but were also deeply ingrained with the community's social fabric. They emphasized mutual respect, partnership, and the balance inherent in both roles, sacred and secular. Such ceremonies served as a powerful testament to the adaptability and resilience of traditions that embraced both aspects of the matrimonial union. As we journey through the historical realms of marriage, these dual roles, a sacred covenant and a secular contract, highlight the dynamic and multifaceted nature of the institution. From the old world's cradles of civilization through the evolving norms of contemporary societies, brides have been navigating these domains with remarkable acumen. In modern times, the dichotomy continues to provide a rich landscape for examining how individuals, particularly women, experience and shape their marital journeys. The continual evolution of marriage, now more reflective of personal choice and autonomy, represents a blend of ancient traditions and contemporary ideals. It builds upon the rich tapestry laid by countless generations, defining what it means to be part of a union, both eternal and grounded. Ultimately, this peaceful narrative of the dual roles of marriage offers not just a historical insight, but also a soothing exploration of how interconnected paths have shaped the world we live in today, providing a tranquil and deep understanding of the sacred and secular harmony in our personal lives. The loneliness of marriage has been an enduring theme throughout history, whispered softly through the corridors of time, leaving traces in the hearts of those who traversed it. This chapter delves into the solitude that many brides have experienced, feeling isolated as they were separated from their families and thrust into new lives filled with unfamiliar customs and surroundings. In the quiet villages and bustling cities of the past, young brides often found themselves uprooted from the familiar comfort of their childhood homes. The marriage ceremony, a seemingly joyful occasion, marked the beginning of a journey that could be as daunting as it was promising. Standing at the threshold of a new life, these women were often enveloped in a veil of isolation, far from the laughter and warmth of their families. Marrying into another family meant adopting traditions and customs that were alien to them. The shift from the known to the unknown often left brides navigating a labyrinth of emotions and expectations. For some, the estrangement was magnified by language barriers or cultural differences, especially in societies where marriages served as alliances, binding together families from diverse backgrounds. In many parts of the world, it was customary for the bride to move into her husband's household, where she was expected to integrate seamlessly into the new family structure. The adjustment was rarely easy. Esteemed as an outsider, she had to prove herself, often without the nurturing embrace of her own family. Simple tasks became complicated negotiations, and every gesture was scrutinized. Imagine the quiet whispers in the night, the soft rustle of robes, as a bride made her way through dimly lit corridors, her heart heavy with the weight of her solitary journey. She longed for the gentle murmurs of her mother's voice, the familiar scent of home, the laughter shared with siblings on lazy afternoons. For each bride, the initial days and months of marriage were a silent testament to resilience. The loneliness was a companion, sometimes more intimate than the spouse she was now bound to. Yet, through this solitude, many found inner strength, their hearts slowly knitting new bonds of understanding and companionship. The gradual unfolding of relationships within a new family often led to moments of genuine connection, where understanding grew slowly, like seeds pushing through the soil towards the sun. Friendships blossomed quietly, taking root in shared experiences and mutual respect. The isolation that mingled with these early days of marriage also carried with it the potential for growth and transformation. From loneliness emerged a quiet strength, as brides slowly carved out their place and forged their identities within the fabric of their new families. In this way, the isolation of marriage, while undoubtedly challenging, also served as a crucible for personal development, often revealing hidden wells of courage and resilience that many brides did not know they possessed. Thus, history, with all its accounts of peaceful lives and perfect slumbers, holds within it tales of the quiet triumphs of countless women. Their stories, though whispered, remind us of the resilience of the human spirit and the strength found in the most intimate battles fought within the heart. The loneliness of marriage chapter, though serene and peaceful in its telling, quietly reverberates with the echoes of brides who, despite the isolation, found ways to belong and flourish in their new worlds. Theirs is a legacy not only of loneliness but also of profound courage and quiet resilience. In the gentle embrace of twilight, amidst the soft laughter and hum of chatter, lay a scene of warmth and kinship in a place untouched by the haste of time. It was a bridal gathering, a tradition passed down through countless generations, one that celebrated the union of love, but more so the eternal companionship of sisterhood. Women, young and old, mothers and daughters, gathered under the shade of an ancient olive tree, its leaves whispering secrets of ages past. The earth's scent filled the air as the sun settled into the horizon, casting a golden glow upon the gathering, their hands busied with delicate embroidery, the creation of gifts that were more than mere objects. They were offerings of love, tokens of wisdom, and symbols of shared experiences. Amidst the rustling leaves and ambient night symphony, the bride, to be radiated joy. Yet there was a solemnity in her eyes. She was embarking on a new journey, but not without the treasured insights gleaned from these women around her. Each stitch in the fabric they worked on was a story, each dye a drop of history, as vibrant as the lives they led. The eldest among them, a matron with hair the color of silver, began with tales of old, her voice a tender echo of wisdom. She spoke of love and loss, of courage and compassion. Each word was a thread weaving a tapestry of understanding, reminding the bride that life was a shared journey, that she would never be alone. Laughter soon bubbled in the group as younger voices chimed in, recounting tales of their own, the joys and follies of love, the missteps and moments of triumph. There was a comfort in knowing they all traversed similar paths, that their struggles were shared, their victories celebrated together. The bridal gatherings were more than just a cultural rite. They were the embodiment of sisterhood. Here, there were no barriers, no judgments. The women looked after one another, shared burdens, lent strength, and celebrated each other's happiness as their own. As the moon rose high, casting its silvery hue across the gathering, the evening's stories turned to the lessons of grandmothers and great-grandmothers, tales of the extraordinary woven into the fabric of everyday life. These were women who had learned through experience, whose hearts bore the wisdom of the ages. In quiet moments, hands were held, and eyes met with a deep understanding that went beyond words. It was a moment of profound connection, a reminder that they were parts of a whole, each carrying a piece of a larger story. And the bride was assured that she, too, was an essential thread in this beautiful tapestry. The rhythmic sounds of the night, coupled with the women's soft voices, created an atmosphere both soothing and mesmerizing. It was easy to drift into the realm of dreams with such peaceful scenes, a perfect lullaby of history. With the final touches on their gifts complete, they exchanged them in a heartfelt ceremony, their wishes embroidered into every stitch. These were not just gifts for the bride but promises, blessings for her journey ahead. As they parted ways, the night embraced each woman with a sense of fulfillment and peace. The gathering had served its purpose once more, perpetuating the legacy of love, support, and companionship. Thus ended another chapter in the tale of sisterhood, a chapter as serene and timeless as the olive tree standing sentinel under the stars, a testament to the enduring bond between women throughout the ages. In the gentle embrace of history, the power of tradition and revelation intertwines to create the rich tapestry of human culture. Marriage rituals, a cornerstone of societies across the ages, have been deeply rooted in tradition, yet they are not impervious to the winds of change brought by moments of revelation. Over centuries, the customs surrounding matrimony have flourished and evolved, their persistence balanced by occasional shifts in societal norms and beliefs. It is this dance between tradition and change that provides a soothing narrative through the halls of time, a story perfect for peaceful reflection. The ancient Greeks, with their pantheon of gods and goddesses, laid down matrimonial customs that were to echo through the ages. The ceremony, an intricate rite of passage, often began with the exchange of vows before deities, symbols of divine oversight of earthly unions. Brides, adorned in their finest garments, would carry offerings of fruit, signifying the hope for a fertile and prosperous marriage. Throughout Greek antiquity, the giving of a dowry was customary, a tradition signifying the intertwining of families and fortunes. This dowry not only represented wealth, but also served as a symbol of the bride's value and her family's standing. It was a tradition that bridged the family's past with its future, a past laced with history's quiet whispers. Crossing into the lands of ancient Rome, matrimonial ceremonies carried forward the weight of tradition, yet embraced the nuanced shifts of time. The solemn ceremony, known as conferratio, required the bride and groom to partake of a sacred cake of spelt, a ritual rooted in the symbolism of shared sustenance. This rite, birthed in tradition, was a binding contract not only between individuals but families. As generations passed, the Roman tradition of betrothal gifts, often signifying commitment, shed its rigidities. These moments of revelation, small yet significant, heralded the changes slowly unfurling as ribbons of tradition began to weave a more complex pattern over time. The medieval era, a time marked with chivalric romance and courtly love, bore witness to evolving customs. The hand-fasting ceremony, once steeped in tradition, allowed couples to declare their union before God and community for a year and a day, before deciding on a permanent commitment. This revelation, resonant with the poetic rhythms of the time, spoke to the changing perceptions of love and choice, carving new paths in the landscape of marital traditions. Rituals in the Far East, too, held tightly to the strings of tradition. In Japan, the nuptial rites of Shintoism called upon the spirits of ancestors, tethering the newlyweds to their lineage and the divine. Sipping sake in the San Kudo ceremony, a traditional triad of offerings, embodied the unity and harmony so cherished by these ancient people. Yet, these traditions would also face moments of revelation. The introduction of Western influence in the late 19th century saw kimonos share space with dresses influenced by the styles of Europe. The changing kaleidoscope of marriage traditions highlighted the delicate balance between the revered past and the dawning of new cultural horizons. In India, a land of vivid colors and richly interwoven customs, marriage rituals are a spiritual symphony. The traditional sat fair around the sacred fire, chanting vows with each circumambulation, is a practice etched deeply in time. Yet, with modernity came revelations that brought about nuanced change, where the grandiosity of weddings began to adapt to new social dynamics and evolving regional influences. The passage of time continues to whisper through the pages of history, yet it is tradition's enduring power that cradles these cultural cornerstones. The subtle interplay between time, honored practices, and the sparks of revelation ensures that marriage rituals, while ever evolving, retain their deeply symbolic nature. Finally, envision the serenity of a Scottish Highland, where whispered vows are exchanged amidst the mist-covered glens, a tradition unchanged in its essence yet forever touched by the revelations of time. This gentle harmony between past and present weaves the perfect fabric for a story where history finds its peaceful rest. In this quiet embrace, tradition holds steadfast, mingling with the change it momentarily resists, allowing brides, through the ages, to step into their new lives, their journeys forever marked by the delicate balance of inherited customs and newly revealed paths. Dungeons and dowries. The cost of marriage is a tale that delves into the intricate fabric of societal expectations and the financial burdens these impose, particularly on families linked by the sacred institution of marriage. This story unfolds across various settings and times, reflecting the universal and timeless pressures that accompany family obligations. Funding imagine a peaceful village nestled in the rolling hills of an evocative landscape. The sun rises gently each day, warming the cobblestone streets where children play and villagers go about their daily chores. Life here seems idyllic at first glance, yet beneath the surface, a quiet weight presses upon the families as they prepare for the union of two souls. And in the heart of this village, preparations are underfoot for a wedding, a grand affair meant not only to unite two loving individuals, but also to reinforce the bonds between their families. It is often seen as an event of great joy, celebrated with music, dancing, and festive feasting that lights up the night. However, the stakes are significant. For many, the financial strain can be overwhelming, casting a shadow over the otherwise jubilant proceedings. Thus, Indian families must gather resources, often stretching beyond their means, to provide an appropriate dowry, a collection of assets that might include livestock, food supplies, fine linens, precious jewelry, and sometimes coin. These accumulated treasures are not just gifts, but a symbolic gesture representing a family's wealth, honor, and commitment to ensure their daughters are cared for in their new homes. Ananti and the bride, adorned in her ceremonial attire, faces her own set of expectations. While she stands at the center of this upheaval, her own hopes and dreams are often secondary to the demands being placed upon her. Her marriage signifies more than her transition into a new life. It heralds her family's deeper entanglements in alliances meant to solidify social and economic standing. Dawning as the guests raise their glasses in toast to the couple's happiness. Whispers of past unions and their consequential realities drift through the air like the faint tunes of the minstrel's harp, a reminder of marriages that once promised prosperity but brought unforeseen hardships. An unwound such tale from the annals of history recounts the story of Alina, a young woman whose radiant spirit was shadowed by the heavy expectations tied to her marriage. Her family's modest vineyard had seen better days, and in marrying the son of a wealthier neighboring family, there was hope for revival. Her dowry, collecting the finest wine they could produce, fine garments and heirloom jewelry, symbolized this hope and yet, as Alina entered her new home, the weight of these expectations did little to lift her spirits. Instead, she found herself ensnared in a web of duties anointing her not just a bride, but a pivotal entity responsible for solidifying the alliance of two families. Her life became a balancing act, tending to both vineyards and the intricate politics of family dynamics that felt in many evenings. As the sun set over the vines, Alina wandered through the rows of grapes, reflecting upon her place in the world, a tranquil escape from the demands that never seemed to quiet. Her mother-in-law encouraged her efforts, yet always reminded her of the expectations that lay ahead. A larger dowry for her future daughters, ensuring they too could navigate this intricate dance of tradition and obligation, but end little fragments of history, like Alina's echo through time, revealing a broader pattern of familial and cultural pressures that continue to resonate. Though the particulars may evolve across periods and places, the essence remains a reflection of humans' ever-present desire to protect, provide, and persevere. Any nunthus, Dungeons and Dowries reminds us that beneath the veneer of celebration lies a profound narrative woven from duty, sacrifice, and sometimes the whispered wishes of brides like Alina. These stories, though perhaps fraught with challenge, unfold within a tapestry of enchanting landscapes, creating a history that remains peaceful and perfect for contemplation or soothing slumber. This balanced portrayal of marriage and dowries across time not only offers insight into historical customs, but invites introspection on how far we've come and what echoes of the past we still carry with us today. In a world long gone by, across various cultures, societies were often bound by deep-rooted traditions and practices meant to uphold moral values and social structures. Among the many rituals were purity tests, often invasive and humiliating examinations intended for brides prior to marriage. These tests, prevalent in numerous societies, were designed to ascertain the bride's virginity, serving as a testament to her morality and the honor of her family. One such culture believed that these tests were essential, a safeguard against moral decay, where a woman's purity ensured the prosperity and honor of her familial lineage. The preparation for a wedding was not just about merriment and union. It bore an ominous undertone for many young women, as whispers of the impending test loomed in the back of their minds. The purity tests varied in form, from what might seem today as symbolic to those that were undeniably intrusive. Often conducted by a designated elder or midwife, the tests involved invasive methods meant to physically confirm a bride's virginity. Such practices included the infamous two-finger test, or inspection for the virginity blood. In other cases, beads and other objects were used as tools for confirmation. The emotional toll on the young brides was immense. Many were left with emotional scars from the humiliating process. These tests were a crucible, often reducing the identity of the young women to mere vessels of family honor. For womanhood, it wasn't stability and growth, but instead a moral battlefield where one's worth was weighed by a singular, private aspect of humanity. The social implications were far-reaching. Women found to be lacking in purity, regardless of the actual truth of their emotional and physical selves, faced ostracism, a scarlet letter that haunted them, branding them with shame and dishonor. In the eyes of the society, the concept of honor was often overshadowed by the shadow of virginity, with little regard for the complexities of human reality. As the fabric of societies around the world continued to evolve, the voices against such degrading practices grew stronger, sparked by the relentless push towards gender equality and human dignity in the modern era. Activists, scholars, and advocates joined hands to challenge and ridicule the socio-cultural norms that perpetuated these so-called purity tests. Through legal reforms, education, and campaigns, societies began to shun these outdated rituals, recognizing them as violations of the basic human rights of women. Organizations and movements worked tirelessly, advocating for the respect and dignity of women, propelling legislative shifts to outlaw such practices. Educational initiatives began reshaping the minds of newer generations, teaching about respect, equality, and the appreciation of individual autonomy over one's body and choices. As these initiatives took root, the younger generations started viewing their counterparts with greater respect, understanding that worth should not be judged by archaic physical standards. Despite the encouraging progress, remnants of such belief systems linger in several parts of the world. It remains paramount that societies continue to challenge and confront traditions that inflict harm and perpetuate inequality, paving paths to liberation and acceptance. In retrospect, the history of purity tests underscores not only the gendered struggles of women, but also speaks to broader attitudes towards privacy, autonomy, and the right to self-determination. It is a reminder of the resilience and determination of women through centuries of oppression, and their continuous fight for dignity and equality. As one drifts into a peaceful slumber, it becomes clear that while history may have been blotched with such injustices, the persistent quest for justice and equality is soothing, a hopeful reminder that growth and change are always possible. In many historical periods around the world, women have often been relegated to secondary roles, their voices and contributions hidden behind the curtains of domesticity, and their power understated behind the veils of femininity. However, What history often fails to wholeheartedly acknowledge is the subtle yet profound influence these women wielded within their households and communities. In societies where direct expressions of authority by women were restricted, they often found other ways to assert their will and effect meaningful change. This tale aims to explore the silent power of brides, daughters, and mothers, intricately woven into the domestic tapestry of different historical contexts, depicted as a peaceful, gentle narrative that can lull the mind into a tranquil slumber. Once upon a time, in the quiet echo of a medieval European hamlet, there lived a woman named Eleanor. She was a young bride who came into her husband's household not just with dowry and linens, but also with wisdom, patience, and a heart brimming with quiet resolve. Eleanor's marriage brought her into a new home, where the shadows of ancient oak beams quietly watched over the household's every breath. Eleanor understood that, despite the constraints placed upon her by the societal structures of her time, there was room for influence. She began subtly. In the warmth of the hearth, she discovered the power of conversations. She listened intently as her husband spoke of farm management, affairs of the village, and the challenges of tending to their land. Little by little, she offered her insights, couched in gentle queries or cleverly masked as idle musings. Her husband, though he was the head of the household in name, slowly began to notice the effectiveness of Eleanor's suggestions. The crops were bountiful that harvest not by chance alone, but through the whispers of her influence. She proposed a change in the rotation of the crops, having learned from her own family's workings, a technique her husband had not considered. He took her suggestions to heart, presenting them as his own, but always with silent acknowledgement of Eleanor's hand in their fortune. In the sunny mornings of summers gone, Eleanor took a stroll through the verdant fields, her thoughts as clear as the sky above. As she walked, she pondered upon her role, aware that power does not always shout from rooftops. Like the gentle tides caressing the shores, she molded the life around her with a soft-spoken determination. Her wisdom extended beyond agriculture. In matters of community, where disputes arose like stormy clouds over a serene valley, Eleanor's voice found strength. She became a silent diplomat, her words gentle as a lullaby. When two neighbors quarreled over a sparse line of boundary trees, Eleanor proposed a festival to celebrate the planting of new saplings, a joint venture that erased tension and replaced it with cooperation and shared joy. Through every whisper that slipped past Eleanor's lips emerged a gentle force, capable of shaping the world around her. Entombed like silence where others saw only shadows, she found a stage. Her husband, grateful for his wife's wisdom, often remarked upon how fortunate he was, claiming divine favor upon their household. But Eleanor's secret strength was not in divine intervention. Rather, it was the silent power of a woman quietly constructing her sphere of influence. Such stories resonate across time. In the bustling markets of ancient Mesopotamia, women played similar roles. The tale of Hediya tells of an ancient Sumerian community where women entered marriage not only as companions but as critical partners in trade. When Hediya married into a family of traders, she quickly observed the nuances of business transactions. Despite constraints in public trade forums, her influence was palpable. She advised her husband on fair pricing, often negotiating terms that ensured long-lasting partnerships and avoided rivalries. Through this intricate dance, Hediya wielded power, not by loud commands, but by nurturing networks that stretched beyond the family market stall, creating alliances that sustained their household's prosperity. These stories illuminate how brides like Eleanor and Hediya, through subtlety and sagacity, reshaped their own dominions. They fostered change not by dismantling the patriarchy, but by maneuvering within it. Their influence was wielded in whispers, their revolutions whispered with care. There's a peacefulness in such tales, a gentle river of quiet power coursing steadily through the epochs. Their stories remind us of the invisible threads women have spun, weaving the fabric of societies from within, crafting destinies with the silent efficacy of a soft-spoken breeze. Each gentle nod, every subtle suggestion, and all carefully measured words formed a stone dropped into the pond of human history, creating ripples that spread far and wide. In the peaceful stillness of the night, where soft lullabies of crickets echo in the gentle sway of night air, these tales bring comfort. They remind us that influence need not always shout from the pages of history, for it is often the quiet, the understated, the lovingly whispered that leaves the most enduring of marks. In the tranquil setting of our peaceful history, the exploration of infidelity paints a complex tapestry that transcends the simple delineation of right and wrong. It weaves a gentle narrative of societal norms, expectations, and the subtle dance women and men engaged in to navigate the complexities of marital fidelity. Throughout history, infidelity's implications have diverged significantly, often contingent on one's gender, bespeaking an era where social norms were far from equitable. In the serene villages of an ancient world, societal frameworks dictated that men and women were viewed through vastly different lenses when it came to the sanctity of marriage. Infidelity, a term steeped in betrayal and broken vows, took on varying shades depending on whether the transgressor was male or female. For men, indulging in extramarital liaisons often bore fewer societal repercussions. The male-dominated societies exhibited complacent indulgence towards male infidelities, characterizing them as unfortunate lapses rather than condemnable sins. Husbands, when straying, were sometimes met with a tacit nod of understanding, rationalized under the guise of irresistible temptation or the need to satisfy insatiable appetites that marriages, quaintly construed, could not. Women, on the other hand, inhabited a stricter reality. The serenity of a woman's domain was often punctuated by whispers of vigilance, for to be branded unfaithful was to endure a more severe judgment. The weight of societal expectations was heavier, and the pathways to redemption fewer. A woman found in the throes of infidelity faced severe repercussions, a tarnishing of her reputation that could ripple through familial ties, impacting everything from her own social standing to familial honor. Yet, within this framework of inequality, women throughout history have exhibited remarkable resilience and ingenuity in navigating the tides of these challenging waters. Brides, often entering marriages arranged more for prosperity or political alliance than affection, found themselves caught in the delicate balancing act between upholding societal values and carving out personal sanctity. Despite their vivid constraints, history reveals their stories of subtle resistance and adaptation. Through peaceful negotiation or the gentle art of persuasion, women cultivated patience, nurturing alliances with those who could shield or vouch for them. Sisters, mothers, and female friends created networks of mutual support. These secret circles fostered a sanctuary for discourse and strategy, allowing women to maneuver through the social labyrinths that threatened to ensnare them. At times, the persistent rumors surrounding a bride's fidelity were deftly quashed through calculated displays of domestic devotion, a form of performative virtue that reassured public opinion and redirected suspicions. In other instances, tales abound of women who skillfully used the ink of a confidante's pen to convey their plight to sympathetic ears in the husband's household or influential village elders. A well-placed liaison, not of romance but of goodwill donations, could often sway the tide from scandal to sympathetic understanding. Thus, in this placid recounting of history, where time flows like a gentle stream, the narrative of infidelity unfurls, not as tales of open conflict or dramatic betrayals, but rather as a testament to the quiet strength and sagacious wisdom of those who lived it. Women, often painted into historical corners, navigated their realities with an artful diplomacy. Men reconciled their indulgences within the protective shroud of societal leniency, both playing their parts on the grand stage of human history. Infidelity remains a canvas on which myriad stories are painted, stories of love, betrayal, endurance, and reconciliation. As we traverse the peaceful corridors of our historical past, the echoes of their efforts to balance these enigmatic scales offer a soothing legacy, one whispered through time. And as history continues to waver gently around them, perhaps it is here, in this intersection of human flaw and formidable spirit, that the truest stories of resolution and peace are found, perfect for easing one into a gentle sleep, wrapped in the warmth of bygone days. In the heart of a small town, nestled between winding country roads and vast, sprawling fields of golden wheat, there are stories that echo through generations. These stories, often whispered in hushed tones at family gatherings or shared over cups of steaming tea, tell of brides who faced unimaginable hardships. Some found solace in survival, while others were not as fortunate. It is a history painted with love and sorrow, interlaced with the enduring strength of women who, in silence, bore their scars, visible or not. For centuries, societies across the globe have constructed complex tapestries of traditions and customs, many of which placed women in subordinate and vulnerable positions. In our peaceful town, the quaint cobblestone streets and picturesque landscapes often concealed a deeper darkness lurking within its history. Meet Anna, a woman whose story is emblematic of the silent struggle faced by so many. Anna was barely 20 when she married Charles, a man a decade her senior. Charles was seen as a respected man in the community, a successful businessman with a charm that could woo any heart. On the surface, their union seemed nothing short of perfect. Beneath, however, lay unspoken truths. The abuse started subtly, with control masked as concern and criticism veiled as guidance. To outsiders, their life was idyllic, yet within the four walls of their home, sorrow resonated in every room. Yet Anna was not alone in her plight. Across town lived Maria, the eldest daughter of her family, who was married off to secure financial stability promised by her suitor Samuel. Maria's family, driven by desperation, overlooked Samuel's temperamental nature. Maria's eyes, once bright with dreams, soon dimmed with fear and resignation. Samuel's love came with bruises and broken promises. His apologies were as fleeting as the leaves cast off by autumn winds. The tales of Anna and Maria are not isolated. They echo those of countless others who endured similar fates, bound by societal norms and expectations. For many, the option to escape was fraught with peril and uncertainty. Family honor and societal shame shackled them in invisible chains. Amidst this tapestry of despair, there were brave souls who dared to break free. Such was the story of Lily, a courageous woman who found within herself the strength to flee from her violent past. Her journey to freedom wasn't without its struggles. She sought refuge in the neighboring city, where under the cloak of anonymity she rebuilt her life. Lily's tenacity, kindness, and resilience became beacons of hope, illuminating the path for others like her. Together, Anna, Maria, and Lily represent the stories untold, the voices unheard, and the battles fought in silence. Their lives remind us of the courage required to confront adversities and the hope needed to foresee a brighter future beyond the confines of abuse. They are stories of strength, silent yet roaring, in movements that transcend personal and cultural barriers. Their histories, while stained with suffering, ultimately ripple through their communities, creating new narratives. As time flows like a gentle stream coursing through the endless fields, these stories serve as a reminder of the collective call to action against the indifference that often surrounds such tales of abuse. Although history often seeks to present itself as a tapestry woven perfectly in tranquility, it is the undercurrents of these narratives that challenge us to rethink what is deemed peaceful. For true peace lies not merely in the absence of conflict, but in the presence of justice, solace, and reformed societal structures that uplift and safeguard its most vulnerable members. Our quiet town, adorned with serenity, harbors stories of resilience, a testament to the indomitable spirit that perseveres against all odds. Once upon a time, in a land where the sun gently kissed the rolling hills and where rivers whispered ancient secrets, lay an idyllic village named Elderglass. Elderglass was famous for its serene atmosphere and tranquil lifestyle. Its people were known to live long, fulfilling lives filled with joy and laughter. The small community tucked away in this picturesque setting had one peculiar reputation. It was home to the longest, lasting marriages that ever graced the world. The villagers of Elderglass had a tradition of celebrating marital longevity through an annual festival called the Gathering of Hearts. This event drew couples from near and far, all eager to understand the secrets to a successful marriage. As with any legend, speculation abounded. Some attributed Elderglass's marital success to the oaks in the heartwood forest that encircled the village, while others spoke of magical properties in the pure springs that flowed through the land. One of Elderglass's most revered couples was Alara and Finian, who had been married for over 70 years. They were a living testament to both the joys and trials encountered over a shared lifetime. Despite the myriad challenges faced together, such as the harsh winter storms and bountiful yet demanding harvest seasons, their bond seemed only to strengthen over time. Elderglass's citizens looked up to Alara and Finian, believing that they possessed the wisdom of marital longevity. A younger couple, Maeve and Aidan, were particularly fascinated by Alara and Finian's unyielding love. Before Maeve and Aidan took their vows, they approached the elder couple, seeking insight into achieving what they called marital success. Over cups of fragrant, calming chamomile tea, Alara and Finian spoke about the factors that contributed to their long, lasting union. Communication, Alara began softly, is like the steady rhythm of a heartbeat. It's essential for life. Always listen and speak from a place of love. Remember, silence is not the absence of arguments, but rather the space where understanding can blossom. Finian nodded in agreement and added, respect and support are vital companions on this journey. Understand that the path you walk is one of shared dreams and individual aspirations. Always encourage one another, for what benefits one partner ultimately enriches the union. Intrigued, Maeve asked about times when the road had been less than smooth, for life was not free from its storms. Elara smiled gently. Patience and forgiveness are your allies here. Know that every hill, every cloud, and every shadow is transient. The true strength of a marriage shines through in difficult times. The couple patiently answered many such questions spanning various aspects of life and partnership, painting a vivid picture of what allowed their marriage to not only survive, but thrive amidst life's inevitable chaos. Elderglass, it seemed, was a microcosm where love could flourish due to an intersection of values and circumstances. Shared community rituals, such as communal harvests and storytelling evenings, were key. These activities encouraged collaboration and mutual dependence, laying a firm foundation for relationships. Moreover, the emphasis on mindfulness and gratitude in daily life helped couples appreciate the small joys and face adversities with resilience. As the days drifted peacefully by, Maeve and Aidan gradually absorbed the simple yet profound teachings of Alara and Finian, weaving them into the delicate tapestry of their own marriage. Within Elderglass, amidst laughter, simple abundance, and stories exchanged under starlit skies, they began their journey. Time flowed gently, like the streams meandering across the verdant land, and Maeve and Aidan nurtured their relationship. Over decades, through shared trials and celebrations, two hearts blended as one, echoing the wisdom imparted by those who had come before. The Gathering of Hearts continued annually, serving as a beacon of hope and testament to the enduring power of love rooted in the soil of patience, respect, and unyielding commitment. The story of Alara and Finian, along with countless other couples who followed in their footsteps, created a legacy spread far beyond Elderglass, touching the lives of anyone seeking a deeper understanding of love's true nature. And so, just as the ancient oaks in Elderglass stood tall as silent witnesses to the tales of time, the village preserved its peaceful, harmonious existence as an exemplar of marital longevity, demonstrating that in simplicity and sincerity lay the true essence of a successful marriage. In the tranquil halls of history, the tales of brides and queens weave a delicate tapestry that speaks of kingly courts, opulently adorned with gilded mirrors and silky drapery. As the sun set gently beyond the horizon, casting an amber glow across the lands, these women, some revered as divinities, others feared for their cunning, struggled within the eddies of royal power and influence. Silent, like a soothing lullaby, the stories of their quiet strength and subtle maneuverings cradle the weary soul to rest. It begins with a simple, serene garden, where the birds chirp their sweet lullabies, a world far removed from the bustling cares of daily life. In this idyllic peacefulness, young royal brides were often groomed for a future quite grand and spectacular. Brought up in cloistered confines of courtyards, filled with the fragrance of blooming jasmine and magnolias, these future queens learned the art of diplomacy, poise, and sometimes the ever-important subterfuge. Take, for instance, the tale of Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine. She was a radiant flower in the gentle springtime of the 12th century. With cascading golden hair that rippled like sunshine on a tranquil stream, Eleanor was poised yet firm, gentle yet unwavering. As a bride brimming with wisdom, she wielded her influence in an era where men dominated the sphere of power. Eleanor's marriage to King Louis III of France was not just a union of souls, but a significant alignment of territories. Though seemingly delicate, she navigated the treacherous waters of courtly intrigues with the grace of a swan floating effortlessly on a lake. The whispers of her quiet laughter in the corridors held more strength than 1,000 soldiers marching into battle. The soft clinking of jeweled bracelets was her only armor, her diplomacy and intellect her primary allies. Amongst gowns of sumptuous silk, vibrant tapestries, and delicate ivory combs lay the heart of the royal bride's true power, a silent, strategic keeper of peace and prosperity. As Eleanor's deft fingers weaved through the ebb and flow of alliances, treaties, and kinships, she masterfully strengthened and expanded her influence. Those who met her gaze were entranced, caught in the serene depth of her knowing eyes. In the world of regal kinships, she and others like her emerged as astute emissaries of their dynasties. In another time, another quiet kingdom, Isabella of Castile lingered in the calm chambers of her destiny. Her mind, a churning sea of dreams and aspirations, was masked by the serene demeanor of a dedicated ruler. Awash in the gentle light of luminescent chandeliers, Isabella sat beside her spouse, Ferdinand, in a coiled tension hidden beneath layers of brocade. Together, they forged Spain's destiny, uniting the fragmented kingdoms into a powerful and peaceful dynasty. Yet, even amidst such peace, the dance of power was unavoidable. Isabella's diplomacy was a symphony, the gently flowing streams of negotiations harmonizing kingdoms into a singularly orchestrated composition. Her decisive nature, seasoned through the quiet study of her predecessors, helped her lead with wisdom and courage. This merging of crowns, a soft union of lands, brought a resting peace to the discordant cacophony of feuding lords and nobles. Among these whispers of history, we find stories that end with a soft sigh rather than a thunderous clap. Catherine of Aragon, born to mighty monarchs and raised in the intermingling of Spanish and English courts, embodies a haunting narrative of dignity amidst discord. Despite the tumult that surrounded her, Catherine's story glides through history like the serene flow of a tranquil river, her grace an eternal testament to her strength. In the years of her youth, gardens abloom with vibrant life were the backdrop to Catherine's early education. Her marriage, a gentle tether to England's future, brought with it a blend of cultural resonance, combining the warmth of Mediterranean sunrises with the misty, cool mornings of the English countryside. Her legacy, like a soft lull whispered through the centuries, an echo of the gentle perseverance she exhibited. She moved with quiet elegance across the chessboard of revolutions and restorations, her actions carefully measured like the gentle ticking of an ancient clock within the castle's hallowed halls. Though her reign was fraught with challenges, she navigated these with a subtle, resolute spirit that spoke words of peace to tumultuous times. Thus, the serene corridors of royal tales are filled with brides and queens whose era has long passed, yet whose legacies whisper gently in the cradle of night. Like the gentle rustling of ancient parchment, their stories rock us gently to sleep. In their hands kingdoms stirred yet rested, grew yet paused, a living testament to grace under pressure, to the silent strength of royal women. As the night deepens, enveloping the world in a calming embrace, the peace of these ancient empires lingers like the softest of lullabies. Their stories, a balm to the restless soul, remind us of the power found in patience, the strength in serenity, the majestic grace that only a true queen can exude. Like a song in the heart of a tired monarch, it lingers on, a gentle guide through the whispered past, a lull to troubled spirits, a realm where power meets peace at the seamless border of night and sleep. The history of widowhood is one of deep complexity, marked by varying degrees of liberation and vulnerability, influenced heavily by the societal and familial structures that surround it. Throughout history, widowhood has been a critical junction in the lives of women, and while it might offer newfound freedom from the constraints of marital obligations, it often brings to the fore a spectrum of socio-economic challenges. In ancient societies, a widow's life could significantly alter upon the passing of her husband. Take ancient Egypt, where widowhood was not necessarily a loss of status. A widow with resources could become a key matriarch within her family, leveraging inherited wealth to navigate her independence. However, without resources or familial support, she could face dire financial vulnerability, relying on the mercy of relatives. The historical evidence from medieval Europe paints a similar duality. A widow could become a powerful figure, especially within the frameworks of nobility, managing estates and influencing political spheres. Documents from the time tell us of widows who took over the management of manors, participating in local economies, and sometimes marrying to consolidate power further. Yet, for those without property or inheritance, widowhood meant dependency on the community or church. Sometimes facing marginalization, the Industrial Revolution introduced pronounced shifts. Widowed women in urban centers were exposed to both opportunities and vulnerabilities. Factories and jobs enabled financial independence for some, while others faced workplace exploitation with little protection. The lack of a male breadwinner could lead to struggles in urbanized societies, which were not yet structured to offer adequate social safety nets. In many Asian cultures, widowhood continued to be profound. For example, in India, the custom of sati, the act of a widow self immolating on her husband's funeral pyre, though rare and outlawed, is emblematic of the extreme vulnerability that could accompany widowhood. Reforms in the 19th and 20th centuries have sought to protect widows, recognizing their potential to live fulfilling, liberated lives. Yet, even modern widowhood is marked by a delicate balance between newfound freedoms and vulnerabilities, with societal attitudes playing a crucial role. Today, widows in many communities globally experience liberation similarly through gaining autonomy and control over their finances and living situations. A sharp contrast to the past. However, they often still face economic insecurity, societal stigma, and loneliness, heavily reliant on the support systems in place. In some cultures, widowhood is revered. A widow is seen as a harbinger of wisdom, symbolic of resilience and independence. In contrast, others view it as a state needing rehabilitation or support. This dichotomy underscores the complex dynamics at play, shaped by laws, customs, and the socio-economic landscape. Modern-day studies highlight this further. Research indicates that the psychological impact of widowhood can be vast, heavily influenced by the widow's social network, self-perception, and societal roles. Widows with strong family ties or community support have an easier transition, finding solace and liberation in redefining their lives. Conversely, those lacking such networks may experience prolonged hardship, manifesting economic vulnerabilities in financial instability. The universal truth across history, however, is the resilience widows often show. Whether through redefining social norms, taking on new roles and responsibilities, or fighting for rights and recognition, widows have consistently demonstrated strength, often turning vulnerabilities into platforms for change and transformation. Thus, the cost of widowhood is multifaceted. It involves navigating an intricate landscape of emotional, social, and economic factors. History reminds us that the collective response, how society chooses to support or challenge these women, often dictates the depth of liberation or vulnerability they experience. Once upon a time, in the intricate lanes of ancient city-states and quaint villages, tales of adultery and scandal were as pervasive as the melodies in the air, often sparking whispers that danced through society like enchanting rhythms. These stories were not just about the indiscretions themselves, but about how society chose to react and assign blame, often overshadowing the broader narratives of human relationships with the weight of their conventions. In the quiet corners of history, from the timeless annals of ancient Greece to the tapestries of medieval Europe, one can find stories that reveal the preoccupations and moral sensibilities of their times. Adultery, particularly when it involved women, was not only a breach of marital vows, but a dangerous threat to the social fabric. Its discovery invited the scrutiny of neighbors and incited the vigilant gaze of the community. The echoes of scandal stretched across the realms, leaving marks on the society that would last generations. In ancient Greece, for example, stories of adulterous relationships among the upper echelons often took on mythical proportions. The case of Clytemnestra and her affair with Aegisthus during Agamemnon's absence is one such tale. As Agamemnon waged war in Troy, Clytemnestra's betrayal simmered through the courts. Her indiscretion led to a tragic bloodbath upon her husband's return, casting a lingering shadow that infiltrated literature and myth, echoing across the ages as a cautionary tale of infidelity and retribution. Likewise, during the Roman times, the Lex Julia de Adulteris Cogrescendis, a statute dating from 18 BCE, codified the act of adultery into the harsh framework of Roman law. While the law aimed to curtail moral decay in Rome's rapidly expanding empire, its enforcement often targeted women. Under these moral decrees, an adulterous wife faced harsh penalties, including banishment. However, a husband's indiscretions with a slave would be rarely scrutinized, reflecting a glaring gender disparity that reinforced patriarchal norms. These societal reactions were not just legal formalities, but tools for preserving lineage and honor, elements central to a citizen standing in Rome. Venturing into the serene landscapes of medieval Europe, the prominence of the church loomed large. Adultery was not just a breach of secular law, but a sin that imperiled one's eternal soul. In this climate, The narrative of courtly love emerged in the courts of Eleanor of Aquitaine, allegorizing passion into a stylized game, often conducted at the boundaries of open propriety. Yet, for those who ventured too far beyond these boundaries, the real-world consequences were severe. Consider the case of Helipasie and Abelard, where the intellectual fervor of an intense affair ended in tragedy. Abelard, a philosopher renowned for his dialectic prowess, was captivated by the young and brilliant Helipasie. Their correspondence, a rich tapestry of intellectual and emotional exploration, led to a clandestine love affair. Yet, when their relationship became known, it ignited a scandal that ultimately led to Abelard's tragic disfigurement and their separation into religious life. Despite such trials, their story endures as a profound reflection on love, intimacy, and the punitive measures arrayed against them. In the Renaissance period, tales of infidelity continued to serve as a lens through which society explored human nature, as dramatic narratives unfolded upon stages and within noble courts. Shakespeare's plays, brimming with themes of marital discord and betrayal, mirror the distress and societal expectations surrounding issues of fidelity. In Othello, Desdemona's perceived infidelity leads to fatal consequences, underscoring how these themes of betrayal are often entangled with those of race, power, and jealousy. Even as we approach the luminescent centuries of modern history, the themes of adultery and scandal maintain a steadfast presence, recalibrated to new moral landscapes. The 19th century, with its burgeoning industrialism and reconfigured familial structures, witnessed adultery explored in literature through the critical lenses of realism and naturalism. From Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary to Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, literature provided a window into the private turmoils and societal pressures faced by women in these eras. In these narratives, it is frequently the bride, or the woman who bears the brunt of societal condemnation, a focal point for the community's moral anxiety. The stories often trail her reputation, haunting her like shadows, while the male counterpart navigates the scandal with relatively minor repercussions. These disparities in blame and consequence encapsulate broader issues of gender imbalance, illuminating the uneven power dynamics at play within romantic, social, and legal frameworks across history. Thus, as we explore stories of adultery and scandal throughout the centuries, we observe a reflection of society's evolving but persistent focus on preserving public morality and order, often at the individual's expense. The consequences are real, bleeding beyond the personal to influence familial and societal structures while the tales endure, woven into the broader tapestry of history. The narratives linger, providing both cautionary tales and, paradoxically, timeless reminders of human desire and vulnerability. In the tranquility of retrospect, these stories, with their whispered secrets and silent recriminations, embrace a certain gentleness. As they unfold in the mind like a serene melody, they encapsulate not just transgressions, but the delicate interplay of love, betrayal, and societal expectations, painting a vivid tableau of human emotion in a world ever rife with change. In the serene pastures of human history, folklore has provided a gentle backdrop to the nuances of marriage and the rituals that seal such bonds. This exploration traverses peaceful lands where tales and traditions interweave, shaping the tapestry of matrimonial expectations with delicacy and grace. Long before man could inscribe thoughts on tablets of clay or scrolls of parchment, stories were the vessels of knowledge, steering societal norms and personal dreams. Folklore thrived at the hearthside, in the cadence of elders' voices and the flickering waltz of shadows. It was here, by the glowing embers of community fires, that tales of love and union were born, sowing seeds of perception regarding the sanctity and ceremonious nature of matrimony. In many cultures, folklore delicately sketches the subtleties of marriage, the timeless fables of wise women and valorous men embarking on epic quests for love offer insights into how these communities viewed coupling, a bond not merely between individuals, but between families, lands, and spirits. These stories, tenderly spun from human aspiration, emphasize virtues such as loyalty, patience, and fidelity, crafting a poetic architecture upon which marriage was anchored. Of a special resonance in folklore are tales that explore the mystical beginnings of creation and the celestial unions of deities, reflecting an ideal egalitarian unity. An exquisite example is found within the archives of Greek mythology. The harmonious courtship and eventual union of Orpheus and Eurydice symbolize not only the enigma of love, but herald the ethereal expectation of union beyond mortality. Such tales elevate marriage to an institution woven with both earthly and divine thread, encouraging communities to emulate this divine essence in their matrimonial practices. The role of folklore in shaping marriage ideals also extends to the rituals themselves. Across varied terrains of civilization, rites and customs are galvanized by stories that have traveled through epochs, gathering fragments of cultural wisdom. Consider the motif of the marriage ring, eternally encircling a finger. Its imagery, pervasive within folklore, underscores continuity and completeness. Echoing tales where the circle denotes endless unity and protection, akin to the protective embrace of folklore's enchanted forests. In peaceful rural enclaves of Europe, for instance, wedding folklore paints dreams with auspicious omens and symbols. The enthralling narrative of the hand-fasting ceremony, a binding rite seen through both Celtic and Norse traditions, speaks to the binding nature of marriage. These ceremonies often echo stories of ancient kings and queens, their hands clasped by the threads of fate, blessed by benevolent spirits. Hand-fasting became a vivid reflection of partnership, its rituals born from tales that carried whispers of enchanted lands where love transcended all challenges. Likewise, the delightful allegories of the East imbue matrimonial rituals with colors of joy and reverence. In the heart of Indian folklore thrive tales of Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati, their union symbolically resounding through wedding ceremonies that brim with festivities, music, and sacred vows. Such legends enrich the storied traditions that guide a community's view toward marriage as both a spiritual and social covenant, a perfect harmony of cultural echoes and eternal fidelity. The contribution of folklore in shaping wedding expectations also harbors gentle counsel through allegorical warnings against the perils that lurk beyond the bond. Stories of tricksters and trials encountered before lovers reach nuptial bliss reinforce the patience and perseverance necessary to nurture a marriage. These tales served as moral compasses, subtly guiding listeners towards safeguarding their commitments against the vagaries of life. Moreover, folklore instills in youth an expectation of their roles within marriage, extending gender norms interlaced with the virtues extolled through narrative, through fairy tales, where princesses await gallant saviors or characters triumph through cleverness. The ideals about gender roles and relational dynamics within a marriage are disseminated, often reinforcing societal expectations of nurturing, leadership, and sacrificial love. Through these age-old narratives, societies come to understand marriage not as a mere alliance, but as a story where two hearts journey together against the canvas of nature and spirit. Folklore, in its eternal graciousness, cradles hopes for marital peace, illustrating through rhythm and rhyme a path paved in mutual respect and love. Thus, as the moon casts its silvery glow, those who delve into the tranquil world of folklore find a gentle hypnosis, lulled into dreams of harmonious unions painted by the timeless brush of human imagination. Such is the power of folklore, its serene tales wrapped in the tenderness of community lore, nurturing dreams from childhood into the realms of waking life, where vows are whispered under star-kissed skies and wedding bells echo with the promises of love, shaped by the enduring whispers of these stories. Throughout history, the phenomenon of cross-cultural marriages has acted as a bridge between worlds. These unions have facilitated a blending of cultures, contributing significantly to the peaceful coexistence and mutual enrichment of societies. In many cases, brides have played a pivotal role in these cross-cultural marriages, serving as ambassadors of their native culture while integrating into a new world. This narrative explores how these unions have unfolded across various regions and eras, painting a serene and harmonious picture of cultural fusion. In ancient times, marriages between different cultures often occurred for political reasons. Rulers would arrange marriages to forge alliances and ensure peace between neighboring kingdoms. This was as much an act of diplomacy as it was of unity. One notable example is the marriage between Egyptian pharaoh Thutmose III and a foreign princess. This union not only strengthened diplomatic ties but also introduced new cultural practices, artistic styles, and linguistic influences into Egyptian society. As we move forward in history, the Roman Empire provides another fascinating example. With its vast multicultural landscape, marriages across different regions within the empire were commonplace. Roman aristocrats frequently married individuals from different parts of the empire, including Greeks, Egyptians, and Gauls. These marriages served as conduits for exchanging customs, knowledge, and belief systems. The brides, often educated and familiar with their own cultures, acted as bridges, introducing new traditions and ideas while embracing Roman customs. During the Middle Ages, the concept of courtly love and chivalry further emphasized the importance of cross-cultural marriages. Royal courts across Europe echoed with tales of knights and their noble quests, often culminating in marriages that transcended cultural and linguistic barriers. Consider the marriage between Eleanor of Aquitaine and Henry Savary of England. Eleanor, a cultured and influential figure, brought with her a wealth of cultural influences from her native Aquitaine. Her marriage helped blend the Anglo, Norman, and Aquitanian worlds, creating a rich tapestry of culture that shaped English history. In Asia, the Silk Road served as both a physical and metaphorical path for cultural exchange through marriage. Along this ancient trade route, merchants, scholars, and nobility encountered a mosaic of cultures. Marriages often formed between individuals from different regions, fostering a unique fusion of traditions. A bride from the Persian Empire marrying into a Chinese family, for instance, would bring with her Persian textiles, cuisine, and customs, enriching the Chinese cultural landscape. Moving into the early modern period, the age of exploration accelerated cross-cultural marriages as explorers and colonizers ventured into new lands. Indigenous peoples and European settlers intertwined both culturally and matrimonially. Despite the uneven power dynamics, many unions were characterized by mutual respect and exchange. In the Americas, marriages between indigenous women and European settlers paved the way for new, blended cultures recognizable in the languages, arts, and traditions that emerged. In the 18th and 19th centuries, with the rise of global trade, marriages transcended even broader borders. In ports such as Singapore and Calcutta, people from various continents mingled, leading to unions that blended Asian, African, and European heritages. Brides played a vital role in these unions, often tasked with navigating dramatically different cultural worlds and ensuring a harmonious blend of traditions within their households. The 20th century, marked by globalization and mass migration, witnessed an unprecedented increase in cross-cultural marriages. With improved communications and transportation, individuals from vastly different backgrounds came together more frequently. These unions highlighted the growing interconnectedness of the world and illustrated how cultural bridges forged by marriages could lead to more inclusive societies. Cross-cultural marriages continue to shape societies today, celebrated for their role in fostering understanding and cooperation among diverse groups. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, these marriages serve as reminders of the endless possibilities for peaceful and fruitful coexistence. Brides in cross-cultural marriages, acting as bridges between distinct cultural worlds, detail a history not of conflict but of harmony and mutual respect. Their stories, echoing through the ages, portray a world where differences are celebrated and cultures blend seamlessly, nurturing a rich global tapestry that is both diverse and united, perfect for peaceful contemplation or restful slumber. In the gentle confines of historical reflection, we turn our focus to the lives of medieval brides, a peaceful exploration of a bygone era, where their experiences continue to inform and shape the modern understanding of marriage. Amidst the tapestry of medieval life, the brides of this era played crucial roles, often symbolizing alliances, forging connections, and embodying the interweaving of families and communities. The medieval bride's journey typically began with a carefully orchestrated marriage contract. These contracts were less about romance and more about solidifying familial ties, economic security, and social status. Within these unions, dowries were common, a practice that ensured the bride brought economic value, as well as her companionship to the marriage arrangement. These were peaceful negotiations, representing the hopes and aspirations of not only the individuals getting married, but also of their families. In the tranquility of castles and manor houses, the occasions of marriage were events of grandeur, pomp, and celebration. Many weddings were held during times of festival or after a successful harvest, to ensure all could partake in the joy and to minimize economic burden. The sacred ceremonies were often conducted within the serene walls of chapels or churches, blending religious tradition with social obligation. Gowned in splendid fabrics, often adorned with embroidery and jewels if they were of noble birth, medieval brides were symbols of purity and virtue. Their attire held meanings intricately linked to their social standing and prospects. The experience of getting dressed for her wedding was a ceremonial affair in itself, overseen by mothers, sisters, and aunts, each imparting wisdom and blessings for the journey ahead. Life as a medieval bride was not without its challenges, yet often it was marked by enduring devotion and resilience. In many instances, brides transformed into astute managers of households, overseeing everything from the estate's resources to providing for the extended families under their care. Their influence extended beyond the domestics, as they often advised their husbands on matters ranging from estate management to even issues of governance. Their presence at court brought a gentle balance to the often masculine spheres of politics and power, where their mediation and suggestions fostered unity and harmony. Marriages, particularly among the nobility, were also paramount to securing political alliances. In an era where kingdoms and territories were stitched together through matrimonial ties, the role of a bride could extend into that of a diplomat without her ever setting foot on a battlefield. Traditionally, the birth of children further solidified a marriage. Medieval brides often became matriarchs and nurturers, ensuring the continuity of lineage, which was of utmost importance, especially in noble or royal households. Many mothers educated their children in etiquette, values, and the skills necessary for them to thrive in adulthood. Some even engaged in literature, translating or commissioning works to ensure their children were well versed in the art, science, and philosophy of the time. The lives of medieval brides, while often shaped by societal expectations, also reflect a sense of agency and influence within those parameters. Their guidance, wisdom, and fortitude often steered families through the unpredictable tides of medieval life, from the grappling with epidemics like the Black Death to the endurance through feudal disputes. Modern interpretations of marriage continue to draw from these multifaceted roles which medieval brides inhabited. The notion of marriage is not merely a romantic union, but a deep partnership rooted in cooperation and shared purpose echoes through time. Such partnerships today, though inundated with choices and possibilities far removed from the limitations of medieval society, still honor the idea of unity resonant with historical precedent. Reflecting on the legacy of medieval brides invites a peaceful meditation on how their lives were intricately woven with the fabric of medieval societies. Their endurance and adaptability demonstrated a profound resilience that both inspired and sustained. As contemporary discussions about marriage evolve, the legacy left by the medieval bride remains a testament to the enduring strength and impact of matrimonial alliances throughout history. In recent years, the stories of medieval brides have taken on a newfound significance, offering fresh insights into the lives of women in the Middle Ages and challenging preconceived notions about their roles in history. As historians and scholars delve deeper into the archives, they are uncovering tales of courage, agency, and complexity that have largely been overshadowed by patriarchal narratives. This peaceful recounting of historical reclamation invites readers to explore the nuanced lives of medieval brides, perfect for a tranquil evening of reflection. In the medieval tapestry of Europe, women were often portrayed through the limited lens of marriage and motherhood. However, revisiting archives and texts with a critical eye has brought forward stories of brides who exerted influence, negotiated power, and contributed significantly to their societies. These narratives reshape our understanding of medieval times and highlight the active roles women played beyond the confines of the domestic sphere. Take, for instance, Eleanor of Aquitaine, whose life and marriages offer a vibrant illustration of female agency in a world dominated by male power structures. As a bride, Eleanor brought vast lands and wealth to her marriages with Louis V of France and later Henry II of England. Her story, often reduced to mere political maneuvering, reveals a woman deeply involved in governance and cultural patronage. Eleanor's patronage of poets and artists helped nurture the burgeoning ideals of courtly love, bridging a transformation in societal views of romance and power. Similarly, the tale of Isabella of France provides a compelling narrative of a medieval bride who became a formidable political figure. Initially wed to Edward Tevye of England as part of a tactical alliance, Isabella's marriage was fraught with difficulties due to Edward's favoritism towards his male companions. Her story, often portrayed as that of a wronged queen, is now viewed through a lens that highlights her diplomatic acumen and strategic thinking. Isabella orchestrated a rebellion that ultimately led to Edward's deposition, earning her the moniker She-Wolf of France. Yet today, there is a growing recognition of her actions as a pragmatic response to personal and political crises rather than mere ambition. Beyond queens and noblewomen, the reclamation of ordinary women's narratives offers a more holistic view of the medieval period. For many brides, marriage was a complex institution entailing negotiation, diplomacy, and survival. Through careful study of legal documents, letters, and wills, historians are piecing together stories of women who managed estates, engaged in trade, and participated in religious communities. These findings challenge the traditional perception of medieval brides as passive figures dominated by their husbands, and instead reveal the varied roles women played in shaping their own destinies. Moreover, medieval literature and art provide glimpses into the evolving dynamics of marriages and the agency of brides. The vibrant colors and intricate details of illuminated manuscripts, for example, often depict scenes of marriage negotiations and ceremonies, subtly showcasing women's active participation in these events. Romantic texts of the era, which were once dismissed as mere fiction, are now seen as reflective of underlying societal values and changes, offering a rich tapestry of insights into how marriage and female agency were perceived. The recent trend of reclaiming these narratives aligns with a broader movement in history to give voice to marginalized figures and communities. It invites a reassessment of how history is crafted, urging a departure from grand narratives that privilege a single dominant perspective. By weaving together the threads of these individual stories, historians are creating a more vibrant and inclusive picture of the past, one that acknowledges the complexity and diversity of human experience. As these stories of medieval brides are reclaimed, there arises an opportunity for reflection on the biases inherent in historical interpretation and the ways in which contemporary understandings can reshape the past. By recognizing the agency and influence wielded by these women, we not only honor their memories but also enrich our understanding of history, creating a narrative that is both peaceful and profound. In the quiet moments before sleep, one can ponder the lives of these brides, imagining their joys and struggles, as well as the societal shifts they navigated. Like a gentle lullaby, the stories of medieval brides being reclaimed offer a soft but transformative touch, slowly reshaping historical narratives into something more just and reflective of the true tapestry of human history.